Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Time to kick off a Monday edition of The Drive on this March 16th. It's sort of a cool last day, full day of winter. Did you know that?
Yeah, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I think tomorrow, if I'm correct, I think tomorrow is the first day of spring, or at least a partial day of spring.
I think that is correct, yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that's right. So, enjoy the last throes of winter, and let's get on with spring, all right? We got an early look at it, but I would like for it to return and stay this time. I am in my I'm in a sweatshirt today because it was just too chilly.
But do you still have flip-flops on?
No, not today.
No. Okay.
Well, I had important dog business to do today. I had to take the dog to the vet, so I didn't want to look like a hippie. So anyway, want to start off this hour. As I was talking to Matt a few moments ago, you would think that one of the most important things that a president does is he handles foreign policy on behalf of the nation. When you hire a president, you are hiring that person to be responsible for the foreign policy that we have with our other nations around the world. And you would think that what would drive a president in his foreign policy decisions would be what's in the best interest of the United States. Now, I think the United States has had a long history of supporting Israel. We have. And when Israel was attacked, it was the initial going was that the Biden administration was very supportive of Israel and said, Israel gets to do what Israel needs to do here with regard to Hamas after such an unprovoked attack. And then that became unpopular in certain quadrants, certain quarters of the Democrat base. You have a very important group of people, 310,000 people who live in Michigan. And in Michigan, they're Arab Americans and they're Muslim Americans, and they make up about 3.1% of the electoral makeup of the state of Michigan. They're about 3.1% of the population of Michigan. And they can have a real impact if they get mad at you. And they're mad at the Biden administration for their policies initially supporting Israel. And now they're doing everything they can to walk this fine line. It's a difficult thing for Biden right now, for him, because on one hand you have Jewish Americans who want to see continued support of Israel, and on the other hand you've got young people who, for reasons I don't understand, have sided with Hamas over Israel, and their young voters generally vote Democrat. And then you've got these Arab American voters in Michigan who are very upset, and many of them voted to be uncommitted in the election that were held there, the Democrat primary that was held there not long ago. And now it seems that our policy is being driven not by what's in the best interest for America, but by election politics, because everybody looking at this situation, it looks like it's going to come down to Michigan. I've been running the numbers and looking at the maps and trying to figure out how you get to 270. And I don't see any way that Joe Biden gets to 270 without going through Michigan. And there are a fair number of Michigan voters who are pretty upset with him. Now, look, we're going to be looking at Michigan a lot between now and the end of the election season. But here are the most recent polls about where the race stands between Trump and Biden in the state of Michigan. Quinnipiac has Trump up by 3. Bloomberg has Trump up by 3. The Hill, Trump up by 2. Epic, Trump up by 4. Fox, Trump up by 2. And then the Detroit News did a poll, and they have Trump up by 8. But the average of polls has Trump leading by 3.5. This frightens the Democrats to death. They are frightened to death over this. And therefore now it is affecting policy, because they don't care about what's the right thing to do with regard to Israel and Hamas. What they care about now is not losing Michigan, right? So the president has been trying to get ceasefire. He's been pushing this down Bibi Netanyahu's throat, and Bibi Netanyahu is just not having it. He says, we're not done yet. And so then Biden sends out Chuck Schumer over in the United States Senate to tell the world that Bibi Netanyahu is not looking out for the best interest of Israel, and suggests that an election in Israel would be something that he would like to see.
A new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel. People on all sides of this war are turning away from a two-state solution, including Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. I believe in his heart he has his highest priority is the security of Israel. However, I also believe Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way.
He's lost his way, says Chuck Schumer. Bibi Netanyahu this weekend reacted to Schumer, telling him to mind your own business, essentially.
I think Schumer's statements are wholly inappropriate. I think we're not a banana republic. The people of Israel will choose when they'll have elections, who they'll elect, and it's not something that will be foisted upon us. That, it's wrong to try to replace the elected leaders of a sister democracy and a staunch American ally at any time, but especially during the time of war. Just imagine that after 9/11, and when you're in the midst of fighting Al-Qaeda and winning, people will say, oh, well, the right thing, some Israeli would say, oh, the right thing to do is now to have new elections in America or have President Bush resign. It's inappropriate, shouldn't have been said, it's wrong. As far as my considerations, they're not for my personal survival, they are for the survival of the Jewish state, and that requires pursuing the war. It's something that my government enjoys the support of the overwhelming majority of Israelis. And let me tell you something, not only the majority of Israelis, but the majority of the American people. 82% support Israel consistently over the 5 months of the war against Hamas and not Hamas. So, I don't know why Senator Schumer made those statements. I think the only thing that we should be focused on is changing the regime in Gaza, bringing down the terrorist regime of Hamas and not the duly elected government of Israel. Mm-hmm. That's the right policy.
Well, he's exactly right. He absolutely is right on that. Now, one hears through the grapevine that Biden is completely hacked off about how things are going for him in Michigan and generally in his reelection effort. This report from NBC News.
We are getting this new reporting about the Biden campaign and about President Biden himself and how he is taking, especially all of these polls, which show him in some cases losing to former President Trump. Basically, our reporting says that Biden has grown angry and anxious about his reelection efforts. Simone, is that what you're hearing in your conversations with Democrats?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, if I were running for election against a person like Donald Trump, who has as many issues as he has and has committed as many alleged acts of criminality as he has, you saw polls that said I was losing to him, even I would be like, well, what is going on here in America?
Yeah, well, they can't help themselves over at NBC. They have to, do that gratuitous attack. But I mean, he's angry and he's upset. This came up today in the White House briefing room with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, the question asked by Peter Doocy.
A report that when President Biden was told his handling of the war between Israel and Hamas was starting to affect his poll numbers, the quote is, he began to shout and swear. So when he does that, is he shouting and swearing about Netanyahu or about Hamas or about his poll numbers?
This is the when did you stop beating your spouse question, because I don't think he ever did that. And so, well, you use that as the premise of your question, which is when he does that. I've never seen him do that, shout or swear in response to that. So from my perspective, that particular report is not correct.
Not correct. Nothing to hear, nothing to see here. He's not upset. He doesn't shout and swear. Well, those reports don't come out of thin air. I can promise you that. It's just egregious, it seems to me, that we have a president of the United States who is willing to turn his back on decades and decades and decades of support the United States has had for the state of Israel, because it's politically expedient to do so in the state of Michigan, where he's in trouble. By the way, Trump leads Biden in all 7 battleground state polls, and I'm talking about the averages here. The one that's sort of close is Pennsylvania, but I mean, he's doing very well in all the battleground states, but they're really concerned about Michigan. So, at what point do you say to the American people, we're going to do what's right for our foreign policy and continue our long-held support of Israel, even if it hurts you politically? He's not going to do it. Being the president of the United States is more than just about running for re-election. It's about making sure that you're doing the right thing on the world stage. It's about doing the right thing, politically. And he's in real serious trouble, and it's all of this stuff, all of the stuff that's going on right now, and all of the foreign policy decisions that he's trying to shove down the throat of Bibi Netanyahu are because of what's going on in Israel. Again, you have 310,000 Arab and Muslim voters in Michigan not happy. That's what's going to be the driving force of foreign policy instead of what's the right thing to do, what is the politically expedient thing to do. I can understand why he's angry, though. I mean, because he's going down in flames. Again, one hears that he doesn't want to hear. He's pumped a lot of sunshine. One hears that, they go in and they give him, if there's one stinking poll out there that has any glimmer of good news, that's the one they go and tell him about. But I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to say to the president, this is not going so well, Mr. President. This is not going so well. And they're starting to now show him, the other polls that we've all been looking at. He apparently gets up in the morning and watches Morning Joe on MSNBC. That's the extent of the news coverage he gets. And that is that stuff is just, I'm telling you, it's just you talk about pumping the sunshine and always looking for the best outcome for as far as Democrats are concerned. They're looking for any ray of sunshine they can find, and that's all he's being fed upon. When he starts to be told the truth, he starts to get angry. And when he gets angry, it starts to affect foreign policy. And in this particular case, you need to understand that everything that happens, if he's willing to walk away with Israel, over 310,000 voters in Michigan, then every single decision that's being made, you need to understand, needs to be viewed through the prism of the looming elections and his cratering poll numbers, which don't look good on any level. It's all about Michigan. As we go forward, pay very close to what happens in Michigan, because as Michigan goes, so goes this election. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Stinky, stinky, stinky. What was it like the last time you were in an auto repair shop? Was there smelly, greasy old rags lying around? Was there a countertop that, you didn't even want to touch? Another thing that stinks are repair shops that keep your car forever. They're not honest. They don't call you back when they say they will. If that was your last experience at a vehicle repair shop, listen, I want to tell you about Eurofix. They take the stink out of European auto repair. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And you'll never pay dealer prices. Eurofix now in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and their newest facility in Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX. Or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
The U.S. at odds with Israel over their plan to invade a major Gaza population center right here in Tennessee. A body found in the Cumberland River, and a new pilot program that says it could crack down on fentanyl networks from the Department of Homeland Security. We'll tell you all about it. 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour. There's Mac Morey with all of your stories, telling you the news at the top and the bottom of the hour. And, of course, he is the host of the runaway smash hit success, Mac Morey's Wide World of Sports.
Oh, yeah, we're back at it today. I'm excited.
That's right. We're looking forward to that. And over there with all the blinky buttons, it's Chris Weber doing his job so ably, keeping the train running on time and making sure that, I behave. That's his main job. I take a lot of watching, folks.
Yeah, it's tough.
You have no idea
how
many times he saves me from myself. He really does. Hope you guys did you have a big St. Patty's Day blowout anybody?
I thought about it briefly on Saturday. I think tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day. I didn't think of it at all until it was too late. I was already out in the midst of a bunch of people with St. Patrick stuff on, and I had zero green on. Mm-hmm. And I thought, if anybody pinches me, I don't want to have to deal with this. Yeah.
So
but luckily they didn't.
What about you, Mac? Did you get out there and do anything?
I did, and I was kind of like Weber. I didn't even get a green beer this year. I felt sacrilegious. So,
well, I am mostly Irish. I mean, there's some German. I'm a mutt, but I mean, there's most. My dad was a redhead, blue eyes, and remembers a great grandmother who actually spoke with an Irish brogue. Back in the day, and so as far as I know, I'm mostly Irish. And so, Cabana wife. Well, we have some friends who said, we're going to go down to McNamara's. You know where that is?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. McNamara's.
Good stuff.
We're going to go down there. And so, we're all going to go down there together. And I said, and so Cabana wife committed me to this. And I kept saying, it's going to be a zoo.
Oh, yes, I bet it was.
It's going to be a mess. Well, somebody, I don't know, it's not going to be that bad. And I said, you have no idea. And then I realized I'd been to McNamara's one before. If it was out in our area, it might not have been too bad.
Yeah.
But you're driving almost into Nashville.
Yeah.
To get to McNamara's.
Mm-hmm.
And so we drove all the way in there, and I kept saying, I don't know about this. I don't know, Cabana wife. This is going to be a mess. And we pulled into the parking lot, and I said, nope, I'm going back home. And I drove us back home. And our friends, we left them high and dry. They had other people there were joining there, but we were supposed to join them, and I just said no. And I got a text from them later. They stayed. Took them like more than 2 hours to get a table. And I'm past that,
Yeah, same.
I mean, I don't want to stand around and for 2 hours waiting on a table and drinking a green beer because I actually don't like the concept of green beer.
Yeah, I don't really either.
I'm not, I don't want a green beer. I want a regular beer.
I went with the Irish red ale. So you can't go wrong with that.
There you go, yeah. So anyway, we decided not to do all that, and then it's been a very eventful weekend here, and a little bit of news. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, you may notice wandering around in the background here is my beloved dog Grogu, and
I think she's behind the goat. She's stretched out on the floor. I think behind the goat.
There's a little ray of sunshine over there.
Yeah,
she's there. Okay, so anyway. So Grogu's back in the studio, which he has not been. And the reason she's able to come to the studio is we have placed Solo, the puppy, with a new family in Murfreesboro. Now, before anybody gets all upset with me about it, apparently people have very strong opinions about how we should handle our dogs, and they're not afraid to tell me about it. We really felt like it was in the best interest for a number of reasons, which I'm not going to go into. But we did not make this decision lightly. We thought about keeping her. In fact, that was our plan. But as we got deeper into it, there were some things that came up that made us realize that it was probably going to be in the interest of the dog to be placed in another family. And so we did that. And it's a lovely family in Murfreesboro. And I thought, and so we spent the rest of the weekend sort of doting on Grogu, because that's quite a thing, with the puppy, and then all of a sudden puppy's gone. Mm-hmm. So we worked on that, and puppy's actually coming back in about 3 or 4 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Cabana wife said, "Oh, you're going on vacation? We'll take care of the dog." I
So
said,
now
okay.
you're going to run a doggy daycare, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. So the little dog will be back here for a few days.
Oh,
and
look,
then-
she just jumped up on the couch back there.
Oh, she knew we were talking about her?
Yeah, there she is. Right.
Hi,
Oh,
Grogu.
yeah.
I see her back there. Isn't she a pretty girl?
Uh-huh.
Isn't she a pretty girl? Yeah. Well, anyway, don't at me. Honestly, we love this family, and they love this little dog. Have two little girls.
That's what's
and
important.
they're just doting on that little puppy, and she's eating every bit of it up. So
Nice.
we're very happy with the outcome, and we want you to be happy as well. All right. It is 30 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
3:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 45 degrees and windy on this last day of winter. Weather forecast traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. The U.S. is at odds with Israel over the nation's plan to invade a major Gaza population center. Andy Field with the latest on the reaction from the White House.
The president spoke with Israel's prime minister for the first time in more than a month and urged him not to invade Gaza's southern city of Rafah.
But a major ground operation there would be a mistake. It would lead to more innocent civilian deaths.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan saying the U.S. supports Israel's goal of eliminating Hamas, but not by sacrificing more civilian Palestinians that the terror organization is using as human shields.
Sullivan said that until there is a deal, the U.S. is urging Israel not to invade the city of Rafah and risk more civilian deaths. Right now in Tennessee, a body was found yesterday floating in the Cumberland River. The body did not fit the description of Riley Strain, the missing University of Missouri student, or Sebastian Rogers, the missing 15-year-old out of Sumner County. The TWRA reported the body floating before the Martin Luther King Bridge. And the Department of Homeland Security is launching a new pilot program. It says that it could help crack down on fentanyl networks. Mike Dubusky has details.
Artificial intelligence models like Gemini from Google are capable of scanning through and summarizing vast stores of information. That's what DHS says its new pilot program is designed to do, intended to help investigators summarize and search for information within lengthy investigative reports. The department says it could lead to, among other things, more fentanyl seizures. But the technology has drawn criticism for occasionally producing false or misleading information.
DHS didn't specify which large language model it would be using. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Imagine what you could do and how you would feel if you or your loved ones had no pain. Well, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley over at the Wellness Institute of Nashville can help you find a pain-free life. And because getting better and feeling healthy is so important to both of them, they are now freezing the cost at 2023 levels. That's right. You can get spinal decompression treatments half off the KT machine, and new patients get a full consultation for just $23. And so, this is how it works. They will go over everything with you, do an analysis, look at anything you got. If you bring in an MRI or x-rays, they'll take x-rays if you need it, and they will then give you a course of action. And that course of action will get you to feeling better in very, very short order. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley are experts. Dr. Mitchell studied and practiced all around the world. Dr. Ashley has chiropractic experience, but also achieved clinical excellence in holistic healing, ranging from nutrition, cold laser, stress reduction, and more. So call Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley to set up your appointment. Here's the number, 615-246-5009. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Learn more at painisbad.com. It is 37 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air here doing the drive on this 18th day of March. We are more than halfway through the month, and I double-checked. Yes, it is the last full official day of winter.
That's true. It is.
And I am glad to have this winter behind us. I'm ready to bring on the warmer weather. I'm pushing the season, as I always do. You know, I mean, I hate people who push the season with, like, decorations at the holidays, but I always find myself pushing the season when it comes. Like, I take all of the short sleeve shirts and I bring them out early, and I start wearing them early. And then I had to go digging through the closet for something a little warmer
that's
today.
right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, couldn't do that. Okay, listen, Donald Trump. Boy, this thing that's going on with Donald Trump, with regard to a comment he made out on the campaign trail, is just it is just the biggest mess of that you have ever seen. I mean, and the way the media are portraying it, the mainstream media, is a bunch of. All right, so well, you know what is it? Okay, first of all, he's riffing, and I'm of the school that politicians ought to stick to a script, because when you riff, you can give yourself, unintended consequences like this. You didn't need to go there. It really wasn't that important to what you were doing. But, that's not Donald Trump's style. He likes to get out there and riff, and if he has a script, he stays very loosely, adheres to it, goes off on tangents, and that's part of the charm of Donald Trump, I suppose. But he's talking about the car industry. This is about the car industry. and he used the term bloodbath. Now, listen, you'll hear him in this. This is the entire quote, which you won't hear in many places. This is the beginning of it. He's talking about cars. He throws out the term bloodbath, and then he goes back to talking about cars. This whole thing, this whole train of thought, I think, is about the car industry and the problems facing the car industry. Here it is, the unedited, complete soundbite that the mainstream media won't play for you.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
See, he's talking about cars. When he says bloodbath, he almost says it's going to be a bloodbath, and he almost says, you think he's about to say, for the industry. But he stops himself. It would have been very clear if he had done that.
If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
So it's very clear he's talking about cars here. But ABC News, listen how they added up the soundbite.
Tonight, Republicans forced to defend former President Donald Trump's controversial comment while discussing economic tariffs that there would be a bloodbath if he lost the 2024 election.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it.
Trump's campaign pushing back, saying he was only talking economics, writing Joe Biden's insane EV mandate will slaughter the American auto industry. Even Mike Pence, who says he will not endorse his former boss, coming to Trump's defense.
The president was clearly talking about the impact of imports devastating the American automotive industry.
Was that clear to you? Because it was a little muddled.
It was.
Yeah, it was. I mean, come on. Is it that clear to you, Mike? It's not clear to me because you cut the soundbite off before he went back to talking about cars. To me, that's what proves that it was all one thought and it all had to do with the automotive industry. It's, listen, I'm telling you, if the mainstream media will look for anything in the world. Oh, and they're out there making all kinds of noise about it. All the liberals, they're trying to make hay out of this whole thing. It starts with Nancy Pelosi.
He's even predicting a bloodbath. What does that mean? He's going to exact a bloodbath? There's something wrong here.
It's just bullshit. He knew what he was doing. We're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. He was talking about a bloodbath.
That's Joe Scarborough.
Sometimes a bloodbath means a bloodbath.
We have seen January 6th. We've seen that he's led an insurrection. So no, we're not taking it out of context because the context is his history and his life.
Oh, give me a break. Honestly. Look, again, I wish the president of the United States would stick to a script. It just is safer that way. But, that's not going to happen with Donald Trump. But for them to claim that this is anything other than a discussion about the auto industry, and you know what? I'll tell you something. I think when the Democrats do this, when they come out and they attack, I think the American people are beginning to see through the Democrats' game. That that there's not a lot of there when they come. They twist words, and I think folks are getting really tired of it. And I think the numbers suggest that they know the Democrats are just going to go out there and spout a line whether there's any truth to it or not. They're going to make hay even when there's no hay to be made. And I do believe that the American people are getting very weary of this never-ending attack on Trump, whether it's legitimate or not. They just get very weary of it, and it doesn't hold any. It doesn't hold any power with people because they know that Democrats, they're always shouting Trump, 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 and they know about half the time or more it's stuff that doesn't really add up to anything like this. This is not a big deal on any level. So I think people are getting real tired of that nonsense. And I think if they when Nancy Pelosi speaks, I think a lot of Americans just roll their eyes. Her again. You know, they have no credibility because they cry wolf all the time. And I think Americans are sort of figuring that out over time. There is other news that has to do with Trump, and this is tough. Trump has said that he cannot post a bond covering the full amount of his $554 million civil fraud trial judgment while he appeals. His lawyers told a New York appellate court on Monday. Trump's lawyers wrote in a court filing that obtaining an appeal bond in the full amount of the judgment is not possible under the circumstances. With interest, Trump now owes $456.8 million. In all, he and co-defendants, including the company and top executives, owe $467.3 million. To obtain a bond, they would be required to post collateral worth $557 million, Trump's lawyers said per the report. The defendants had so far approached 30 surety companies through 4 separate brokers to obtain a bond. You may remember that a state appeals court judge ruled last month the Republican presidential candidate must post a bond covering the full amount to pause enforcement of the judgment. Trump has said he will appeal the ruling, but he will have to pay the fine as a bond to New York State before he can proceed. So now Letitia James, who's bringing all of this stuff, says, well, we're gonna seize his properties. And this is not fair on any level. And again, I think the American people get this, that this was a BS trial and that the judge had it in for him from the very beginning. Wasn't a jury trial. It was just one very, very democratically connected judge who had it out for Trump from day one. Now, I think he'll win on appeal. But in order to get to the appeal, the way this is all set up, in the way he had the order come down, he has to pay before he can even appeal. Now, how is that right in America today that you got to come up with $500 million before you can appeal a case? Doesn't seem right. And I don't know how you get this fixed. And if he decides not to pay it, then they will try to either seize his property or they will do something like, keep adding the interest on, which accrues at an unbelievable amount every single day that he doesn't post the bond. So that I don't know how that's going to get resolved. But again, it just seems so patently unfair, and I think the American people understand that. So how that's going to get played out is something of a question mark right now. They've gone back to the judge and said, Judge, we've tried to get the appeal bond. We can't get it. So I don't know what Ingram's going to do, but it doesn't seem right to strip a man of his property before he has had the opportunity to appeal the process and the ruling. That's not right. It's just not right on any level. But there have been on some of the other cases, though, it's really been something to watch. From the WashingtonTimes.com. Trump's legal strategy has been bolstered by prosecutorial fumbles and the Supreme Court. That's pretty good. The self-inflicted wounds among former President Donald Trump's legal persecutors are working to his advantage and potentially pushing a politically crippling judgment beyond the November election. Now, this has to do with the case out of Georgia. Judge Scott McAfee, presiding in Atlanta, ruled Friday that Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis could continue prosecuting Mr. Trump for the 2020 election challenges, but that the appearance of impropriety demanded that either she or ex-boyfriend Nathan Wade exit the case, giving the former president fuel to fire up his base. Within hours, Mr. Wade, as you know, last week quit the team in the interest of democracy. Ms. Willis' unforced error shifted the spotlight away from Mr. Trump and toward her personal life. The ordeal is expected to slow down the case against Mr. Trump, who leaned on Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to find enough 2020 votes to give him a state victory. That's all self-inflicted wounds down there for what I thought was a strong case. You've got a tape recording of him talking to the Secretary of State, said David Schultz, a distinguished professor of politics and legal studies. At Hamline University, Minnesota. He's generally done well, but he benefits from the missteps and has gotten help from the Supreme Court. That's right. The Supreme Court has given him some help as well. I mean, the way it's beginning to feel is that none of these other trials, it could be that none of these other trials go to trial. These other cases will not go to trial until after the election. And if you win the election, you can't prosecute a sitting president. A sitting president has immunity. And you got Supreme Court decisions that are looming out there. This is so far as his legal team has started to pick apart these cases and raise concerns and point out that there is another side to the story. A lot of these things are really in trouble. A lot of these cases that are pending against Trump are in trouble, and that is good news. Bad news on the Letitia James $454 million, and how that's going to get resolved, unclear. But a lot of the other cases right now are looking pretty good in that they are being pushed so far back, and some of them may fall apart completely before it's all over. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, be honest with me. Are you happy with your weight? I was not happy with mine, and I started regaining a lot of the weight that I lost last year, and I decided to do something about it. Though I've never had a weight loss client before, I'm very impressed with the program that Jamie and Carly at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon developed for me. You see, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They took a look at my history, at my lifestyle, and suggested an approach that is starting to show real results. Amazingly, this is the big part, I'm no longer hungry, which is huge. Beyond that, Cabana Wife and I are undergoing peptide therapy at Restoration Wellness Med Spa and are thrilled with the results. We both noticed greater mental clarity and increased energy. So whether your goal is to lose weight or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness Med Spa has a solution for you. Maybe it's time for you to join more than 1,000 other patients who have already seen life-changing results. Here's the number. Write it down. 615-470-8124. That's 615-470-8124. Learn more at restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
Hamas may have taken back a hospital in Israel, a Riley strain update, a fire in Tennessee, and the weekend box office numbers. Those stories and more at 4 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you, Mac Maury. It is 57 minutes now past the hour. Take a look at the markets now. The Dow Jones Industrial ended the day up 75, the S&P up 32, and the NASDAQ up 130. This was Snap a 3-day losing streak. With more economic analysis, let's check in with our friend John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. Hello, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, actually, after a pretty volatile week last week, had a good positive day on the market, and this is a lot like we've been talking about in the past. This week is all going to be about the Fed. The Federal Reserve is going to have its March meeting this week, and of course, it's probably the least kept secret on Wall Street. Most people expect the Fed is going to leave rates unchanged. But one of the big things that's going to be coming out this week is on Wednesday, they're going to release what's called their economic projections. And a key component of that is what's called the Fed dot plot. And this changes periodically, but what it's going to be is a picture of individuals within the Fed and where they see rates going. Now there's less than a 50% chance of Wall Street, according to Wall Street, that we see a rate cut before June. So some really important reports from the Fed coming out.
All right. Thank you very much, John. And you can learn about all the things that John Maxon and all the good people over at Beacon Capital Management can do to make you ready for your retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 45 degrees, and it is a windy day in Music City. First day of spring tomorrow, and that cool weather won't go away right away. Traffic complete weather forecast coming up 5 minutes. In Gaza, the Israeli Defense Forces still operating in Al-Shifa Hospital. An Israeli political source with knowledge of the operation says at least 20 people have been killed. Here's Tom Sufi-Burridge.
According to White House Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, he was actually saying that he's confident that Hamas operatives were firing back from the hospital. And what Jake Sullivan from the White House also reiterated about this is that it was previously raided by the IDF. The IDF took control of that site back in November. They took journalists from ABC News inside the hospital. And now it seems that Hamas has been able to infiltrate that area again.
The IDF say that they seized weaponry and money being used by Hamas. They say that they killed multiple terrorists in that area. But remember, they are not the only patients in hospital in there. There are also civilians sheltering in that hospital. Here in Nashville, police confirmed the bank card of missing Missouri college student Riley Strain had been found near the Cumberland River, near the site where he vanished nearly 10 days ago. Brandy Bainan, who was taking part in a live stream with the woman who found the card, told ABC News she couldn't believe it when the woman showed her.
She flipped it over and saw his name, and she was like, oh my God, I found his card. And instantly I said, no, you didn't. And like, oh my God.
Meanwhile, a body found floating in the river near MLK Bridge is not Strain. A fire in Tennessee, a condominium in the Reed Hill Commons complex in Franklin caught fire last night, left $10,000 in damages behind. Only one woman lived in the condo, was able to make it out with her cat. Officials say that the woman accidentally hit a knob on an appliance in the garage with a plastic tote on top that caused those flames to start. The woman and her pet cat have both been displaced from that home. And some entertainment news. Sequels on Pandas and Sci-Fi still ruled the weekend movie ticket sales, says Chuck Siverston.
Panda is the new Black, Jack Black.
What do I know about being a spiritual leader?
Voicing the lead character in Kung Fu Panda 4, numero uno at the North American box office in its second weekend. $30 million in ticket sales, say studio estimates. Dune Part 2, a very close second in its third weekend, $29 million. Third place with $7.5 million. Arthur the King, based on the true story of an adventure racer who befriends a stray dog. Imaginary fourth, Cabrini fifth.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hour number 2 of The Drive, kicking off on this 18th day of March. 45 degrees here in bucolic Watertown. Well, we've had some sunshine today, but it's been cold, and that's okay. It's the last full day of winter. Tomorrow we welcome spring. Spring will have sprung by this time tomorrow.
Yeah, just don't expect a dramatic change.
Yeah, no. but I'm glad that spring is going to be here. I am ready for spring. It's I think fall's my favorite time of year. But I love spring. It's a close second would be spring.
I don't think about
winter's too cold, summer's too hot. Spring and fall, those are good times of the year.
If I could get rid of the pollen during the spring, it would be okay.
Yep. No doubt about that. And that's where I was today. And Grogu's is an allergic dog.
Oh.
She got to allergies, and so we had to go and get her allergies treated today. That's a poor puppy. She's back there behind me. Well, is she? Yeah, she's curled up on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's back at work with me now, and I like that. All right, let's. Why don't we call this our 2024 update? Not going to share a bunch of numbers with you. But before I get too deep into that, let me just say an alert, cunning, and sly listener to this program has pointed out that this whole thing about Trump using the term bloodbath, and the Democrats trying to suggest that he's suggesting that the nation is going to go to war with each other if Trump is somehow not elected. It really, when you look at the Merriam-Webster definition of bloodbath, I think he used the term correctly. So first of all, the number one definition of bloodbath is a great slaughter. Okay, that's pretty clear, right? Number 2A, a notably fierce, violent, or destructive contest or struggle. But when you get down to 2B, the sort of like the third, it's a major economic disaster. And they point out a recent use in the Los Angeles Times. Generally good news in job growth, with a blowout report of 353,000 new jobs in January, and months of gain in manufacturing is confounded by employment bloodbaths among tech and media firms. See, that's he used it correctly. So, when people try to say otherwise,
we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
See, he's talking about cars, and he's talking in economic terms here. So there is a definition of the word which fits completely with that. So, okay, just moving on. But enough of that silly nonsense. Really, honestly, haven't we heard enough of that? In our 2024 report, you got to watch these Democrats every minute. Biden is pushing to erase voter ID requirements, the Washington Times. Here we go. Recent comments from Biden administration officials have stirred a debate about the role of federal agencies in supporting citizen participation in elections and the validity of voter ID laws. Concerns have been raised by House Republicans over a lack of transparency regarding the implementation of an executive order by President Biden aimed at encouraging federal agencies to assist in voter registration efforts. Do you think they'll do that even-handedly? No, of course they won't. This is in addition to statements made by Attorney General Merrick Garland questioning the effectiveness of voter ID laws. Representative Claudia Tenney, New York Republican and co-chairwoman of the Election Integrity Caucus, disputes claims that voter ID's laws disenfranchise voters. The statistics do not bear this out. It's like 85% of people across all demographics support voter ID. And she's right. They were in response, of course, to the Attorney General, who has criticized the laws as discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary. He made that speech, and no, this wasn't a political speech at all. Selma, Alabama. The Attorney General said he's committed to election access. Notice he has bolstered the legal team in the Civil Rights Division voting section to challenge what he calls restrictive measures enacted by various states, including those related to mail-in voting, the use of drop boxes, and voter ID requirements. This is such nonsense. The Washington Times continues, however, studies cited in Fred Lucas's 2022 book, The Myth of Voter Suppression, challenge the notion that voter ID laws impose voter turnout. For example, a 2019 National Bureau of Economic Research study based on data from 2008 to 2018 found no negative effect on voter registration or turnout. We've had an unprecedented amount of changes in laws in terms of election integrity, asking for Ms. Tenney noted, calling for a return to making voting sacred. Listen, there is nothing wrong with asking someone to prove they are who they say they are, to prove that they are, in fact, someone who is eligible to vote. And you know, look, the least you can do is ask somebody to identify themselves. I am not offended in the least when I go to cast my ballot here in Tennessee, and the first thing they ask for is a government ID. So I give them my driver's license. Happy to do it. Happy to do it. And if you don't let anybody tell you that this voter ID is somehow restrictive, you know why they don't want voter ID? It's so they can cheat. That's the bottom line here. If you don't have to prove you are who you say you are opening up the greater opportunity for someone to cast a ballot that they aren't entitled to cast. It's just wrong. The New York Times, according to the dailyfetched.com, admits that MAGA is winning over the war over election fraud narrative. The New York Times recently published an article that Donald Trump and his MAGA movement are, quote, winning over the war over disinformation, admitting that the majority of Americans now believe that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. The newspaper says conservatives have unquestionably prevailed in exposing leftist censorship as undeniable evidence of voter fraud. It's quickly becoming the elephant in the room for the mainstream media. This is the New York Times saying this. In the wake of the riot on Capitol Hill on January 6th, a groundswell built in Washington to rein in the onslaught of lies that had fueled the assault on the peaceful transfer of power. Social media companies suspended Donald Trump, then the president and many of his allies from the platforms they had used to spread stuff, and they go on to make the case that this was the proper thing to do. The New York Times says, but overall, they say that the American people aren't buying it. See, this is the thing about Democrats. They always push something just a little too far. You know, they just come in and they make the case, and then they keep pushing the case, and then they push in the case, and they go just over the line, and people say, enough of that. Interesting that the New York Times believes that our side is winning that war. Here is an interesting story. If you don't read any other story today, this is going to be way too long to get into in great detail, but just the headline tells you everything you need to know about it. 41 times that Google has interfered in U.S. elections since 2008. This is done by the Media Research Center. You know, that's Brent Bozell. I think they do a great deal of good in pointing out how slanted mainstream media reporting is. And they're sort of turning away from mainstream media and looking at the sort of search engines that are used so dramatically and overwhelmingly. Google is the biggest one by far, and how they can slant the playing field by the way they respond to your Google requests. And they go on and they say they identify, you should look this up. It's in the 2024 tab at yourfarb.com. Just go to yourfarb.com, look up today's show prep, scroll down till you get to the 2024 tab, and you'll find this story. 41 times Google has interfered in U.S. elections since 2008. And they go through it. I mean, they have a lot of detail here. Again, I like to point out occasionally an article that I just can't go through because I don't have the time to go through it here in great detail. I can't go through all 41 of them. But if this is interesting to you, why don't you go to yourfarb.com, URFARB.com. And, of course, you can find the link to yourfarb.com at 997WTN.com. I think the thing that I am most interested in, we talked about it a little bit just a while ago, is that Biden is now so angry about the fact that he's losing. He cannot believe that he's losing. And so, it cannot be his fault. So apparently he's screaming and he's swearing at the staff when they come in and tell him, well, Mr. President, it's not going so well. President Joe Biden, according to the Washington Examiner, is anxious and angry about his reelection campaign as former President Donald Trump shows strength in swing states nationally. As I told you, he is leading in all 7 swing states. One is pretty close, that's Pennsylvania, but the rest he's leading. Biden has been second-guessing travel and messaging for his bid for 4 more years amid other frustrations, according to the report, which was first carried by NBC News. The report cites several people familiar with the Biden campaign to illustrate the frustrations the president has had as his 2020 opponents appear on track to beat him, according to most polls. Biden was reportedly seething after he was told his handling of the war in Gaza had caused poll numbers in Georgia and Michigan to drop, with the report allegedly he shouted and swore. He also said he felt cocooned. Well, I think he'd be perfect in that movie. Remember that one?
I do remember that one, yeah. It would be a good fit, wouldn't he?
It would be perfect in that now, especially with those orthopedic shoes he's wearing now. Have you seen those? Oh, my gosh. The president wants to speak more with voters and has been frustrated by restraints placed on him. Biden attempted to eliminate rhetorical flourishes to explain his accomplishments instead. See, what was the main criticism? The main criticism of his State of the Union address was it was backwards looking. And most people look at what has happened in the last, 3 years and they say, well, it's not been good. Not good at all. And so he insisted on looking backwards and listing what he sees as his accomplishments instead of looking forward, which is what you're supposed to do in a campaign season. Give people reason. I mean, people know what they know about what you've done. What you want to convince them of, I suppose, is that you're going to do something different going forward. And he didn't do any of that. It was all backwards looking instead of forward looking, which I think is what a State of the Union address is supposed to be about. But that's okay. If he wants to mess it up, that's fine. Biden has remained behind Trump in most national polls, in stark contrast to 4 years ago when Biden dominated Trump in nearly every poll. The Real Clear Politics polling average shows Trump leading Biden by 1.7 points nationally, while the former president also leads the president in most swing state polls. In fact, as I said, the average of polls in Real Clear Politics, Trump leads Biden in all 7, some of them significantly. Despite the polling numbers that are poor, Biden's campaign, this is true, and this is the thing we got to get busy on. Biden's campaign has amassed strong fundraising numbers, bringing in $53 million in February, while Trump is set to spend a significant amount of his campaign funds on legal fees. That's part of their plan. That's what this is all about. Taking away his money that he would normally use for the election. The former president also faces the prospect of a conviction, which could be a boost to Biden's reelection effort, the Washington Examiner notes. So there you have it. I don't think that it's going to turn into a thing like that. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm having a technical issue. Well, anyway, I don't think it's going to be a problem for him to do that. And I think as we get forward in here, you're going to find that Biden is not doing well and Trump continues to do well. And that's about all you can expect of it. 21 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. It's sort of hard to read the time when your clock dies. I was, but I got to, in that one moment, I pounded it into submission. It's now 422. All right, Busy Bee, HVAC, and plumbing. They're the people you want to call. Okay, tomorrow's the first full day of spring. You're going to be needing your air conditioner. How's it working? Have you tried it out already this year? If it's not doing what you want it to do, it feels like maybe it needs a little work. Well, then what you need to do is call this number, 615-775-7833, and the folks over at Busy Bee will buzz over to your hive and get it up and running as soon as possible. See, that's what they do. Now, look, if you want to make sure your systems last a long time and you don't have to replace them, too soon, the real key to that is preventative maintenance, and that's what the Beehive Club is all about. Become a Beehive Club member for as little as $99. And what you'll get for that is substantial. You ready? 3 thorough maintenance services on your system. 1 aimed at heating, 1 aimed at cooling, 1 aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. So for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Israel having a plan to invade a major Gaza population center right now. The U.S. at odds with that. And some money news. 4:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
27 minutes now past the hour. There's Mac Morey in the newsroom and Chris Webber in the control room. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. And guys, I don't know. I've never asked you this question, actually, Mac. Are you a big dog person?
Oh, yeah. I own a dog. I love dogs.
What kind of dog do you have?
She's a red heeler. I got her when I was living in Wyoming. Her name's Copper. She's lovely.
Yeah. And Chris, I know you're a dog lover.
Yep, I am. I do not currently have one. Lost my dog of 16 years a couple years ago. So
wow, I remember. Yeah, it was a sad day.
Yeah.
Well, I got this story here from Newsmax.com. Brainwaves show that dogs help people concentrate and relax. Playing fetch or grooming Fido isn't just good for your precious pooch, it also benefits your brain. Such interactions appear to strengthen brain waves associated with rest and relaxation. South Korean researchers report in the March 13th issue of the journal PLOS ONE, their small study compared people's mood or hormone levels before and after spending quality time with a friendly dog. For the study, Onyo Yu, a doctoral student at Konkuk University in Seoul, asked 30 volunteers to take part in a series of activities with his well-trained 4-year-old female poodle. Well, right there's your problem. It's a poodle. No. After getting to know her, the volunteers fed, massaged, groomed, photographed, hugged, walked, and played with the pup. Well, not a pup. She's 4 years old. During each activity, EEG test measured the brain waves for 3 minutes. Participants also answered questions about their emotional states after each activity. The study revealed that different activities had varying effects on participants' brain waves. Playing with and walking the dog increased the strength of alpha waves, a general indication of stability and relaxation. The study noted that alpha wave activity is linked to lower mental stress and better memory. Meanwhile, grooming, playing, and gently massaging the dog strengthened beta waves, evidence of heightened attention and concentration. Volunteers also reported feeling less stressed, fatigued, depressed after the poodle play. And so there you go. Onyo Yu, however, said there is one exception to all that, and if your dog is a French bulldog.
Those are gamma rays that are.
Yeah. This is not relaxing at all.
It sounds moist.
Yeah.
No, I made that last part up. Because I'm telling you, the French bulldogs can be very challenging. It's super exciting that Yu's research provides more insight into how the known benefits of human-animal interactions may be occurring. So anyway, pet your dog, and you'll increase your beta waves. Take your dog for a walk, and you will increase your alpha waves.
I believe it. 100%.
And now we'll wave goodbye to this story because it's 30 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock. Time for the news.
.30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Currently 44 degrees and a windy afternoon in Music City. Got a forecast traffic report just ahead, 5 minutes away. The United States is at odds with Israel over the nation's plan to invade a major Gaza population center. Here's Andy Field with the latest on the reaction from the White House.
The Biden administration saying Hamas has an easy way to save lives and temporarily stop the war.
If Hamas just handed over the elderly, the women, and the wounded tomorrow, there would be a 6-week ceasefire.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan saying Hamas has offered a counter to Israel's ceasefire agreement. Until there's a deal, the U.S. is urging Israel not to invade the city of Rafah and risk scores more civilian deaths.
Now over to some money news. Daria Albinger fills us in on Wall Street.
Stocks are rising ahead of the Fed's meeting. The Dow was up 76 points, and NASDAQ added 130, and the S&P rose 32. The markets are focused on the Federal Reserve as its Open Markets Committee meets this week. It's expected to do absolutely nothing where interest rates are concerned this time around. Volkswagen's factory in Chattanooga, Tennessee, may be the United Auto Workers' first attempt to organize non-union automobile plants across the nation. The UAW says workers at the factory filed paperwork with the National Labor Relations Board seeking a union representation election. The CEO of United Airlines is trying to reassure travelers that the carrier is safe, despite a series of recent incidents from a panel flying off a plane to an engine fire. Heads up, bosses, workplace production is going to drop this week as employees fill out their March Madness brackets and then watch the games later this week.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
You know, one thing that makes Genesis Diamonds stand out from any other jewelry store is the education you get. Now, these are not clerks behind the counter. They are seasoned pros. They know everything there is to know about diamonds. And I can tell you, when I went to buy the engagement ring and the wedding ring for my wife, that's exactly what I got, an education. They will take the time to teach you in ways that is transparent, informative, useful. They'll even teach you how to buy like a dealer buys. They will show you the inside secrets of the diamond industry. They will show you how diamonds are priced and graded on the world market and how you can maximize your budget. You know, they will teach you about lab-grown diamonds and how you need to be very, very careful about where and when you buy them and how. All this is done in a relaxed, no pressure, no expectation kind of atmosphere because they know most guys don't know much about diamonds, so they're committed to teaching you, not selling you. When the time is right, they know you'll come back where you got your education. And when you're ready, Genesis will give you access to one of the largest selection of GIA-certified diamonds in America. That's right, I said the largest. You'll see 15, 20 diamonds in your price range, side by side, so you can make an intelligent decision. If you're diamond shopping, this is the place to go. No brainer, the education you want, the selection you need, the price you deserve, zero risk, zero pressure. Genesis Diamonds voted best jewelry store and best place to buy an engagement ring 10 years in a row. 2 locations, Green Hills and Cool Springs. It is 4:38 on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on the air. Let's get you home safely. Make sure you get there, and along the way, give you things to think about, deep, ponderous things to think about. Maybe a factoid or two. You can walk in time for dinner and just wow them with the things that you've learned, such as French bulldogs are not calming when you pet them. No, I don't know. I just made that part up. That I really just enjoy Grogu as she's gotten older. Used to be you sit on the couch and she would just constantly want to mess with you. She just. But now she's sort of gotten to the point where she really does settle in, likes to snuggle down. She particularly likes it when we're watching television and there's something with horses.
Oh, likes horses, does she?
Horse comes on the TV, just locks in. She's fascinated by horses.
You should take her next time you go down to the horsey people down there. And
yeah, that's right. I don't think she's ever seen a horse, quite frankly. As far as I know, not actually seen a real horse. I don't know what she thinks they are. Big dogs, maybe?
That'd be something to see, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would be. I wonder about that. Let's talk about what's going on with regard to illegal immigration. Now, if things weren't bad enough with the situation on the southern border and actually our northern border, now let's add another problem. That's the Haitians coming in, the boat people from Haiti coming in to Florida and down to the Keys and extreme southern Florida. It is an 830-mile, I'm told, trek from Port-au-Prince to the southern tip of Florida. And there are a lot of people trying to make the run right now because, as you know, if you've been following along, things are devolving in Haiti in a really significant way. There's this thug, sort of a big criminal leader, gang leader by the name of Barbecue. Now, Barbecue was a bad dude. Even Joe Biden would have to say that about Barbecue. He's not a good guy. But because now we don't have there is really no government. No functioning government in Haiti for all practical purposes. And what happens? Well, when you have no functioning government, then chaos ensues. And on a good day, the government of Haiti was not good, was not very strong. But now it's completely non-existent and people are fleeing. And it's a bad situation. We've got people in Port-au-Prince right now, military people. Ostensibly, the only role they are playing is to secure our embassy there. And most everybody, the Americans, maybe 1,000 Americans inside Haiti, but we're not doing anything to get them out. You're on your own. I'm telling you, having been to Haiti twice, I have some sense of what a hellhole it can be. I was there during two tense times. One was as the United States military had arrived to help reinstall Aristide as president, and then the second time was after the earthquake. I have some great stories about both. I could share it sometime, but it's very clear to me that is a country that is always about this far from total and absolute chaos. So now they're trying to make the trip over. Congressional Republicans, according to the Washington Times, on Monday asked President Biden to authorize the U.S. Navy to blockade the Florida coast to stop an expected mass migration of people fleeing Haiti. Led by Representative Matt Gaetz, the Florida lawmaker and the administration say the administration has the power under federal law to use the Navy, the U.S. Navy, to stop a mass migration. And given the unrest and violence in Haiti, it's time to use that power. We urge you to engage the necessary assets to conduct maritime interdictions and interceptions of Haitians under 46 U.S. Code 70051, and then another executive order that's in place to repatriate them to Port-au-Prince in Haiti. Now, normally, it's the Coast Guard that is the first line of defense, but lawmakers say they believe that's not enough to head off the kind of migration that is expected. Governor DeSantis has also put his fish and wildlife boats out there to do interdictions and to hold them if you make it to land, as I remember this thing from past stories, if you make it and get a tow on the beach, you get an asylum request considered. If you don't get to if they stop you anywhere short of the beach and detain you, then you can be returned, or it used to be you could be returned to Haiti, but I don't think that's happening. Now, listen to this. Army General Laura Richardson, head of U.S. Southern Command, told Mr. Gates at a congressional hearing last week she had already asked for increased capacity to be ready because the existing resources are insufficient to address the scope and scale of the anticipated mass migration. U.S. Southern Command says we haven't got enough to handle it. It could be bad. She said the U.S. was preparing, this is unbelievable, preparing to use its facility at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, as an interdiction camp. But Mr. Gates and his colleagues said they want to see the migrants sent directly back to Haiti. See, if they get them to Guantanamo Bay, then they're in limbo, right? And what do we know about the Biden administration? They want these people to come in here, and you know why. Gates is right. They need to go back to Haiti. And we need to, again, is it a bad situation in Haiti? Yeah. But no matter how much we have tried to help Haiti, it doesn't get any better. I mean, this is how many times has we seen this story play out time and time and time again? We send them millions of dollars. I think something like $13.5 billion since the earthquake. And it's no better. What happens to that money? It just evaporates. I mean, there's such corruption in Haiti. And so the money is not going to the things that make lives better for $13.5 billion in a country like Haiti. If you just cut everybody a check, their lives would be, divided up and give everybody a check. You do really well. That would really stir economic development in Haiti. But no, that's not what happens. It gets squandered away. And the crooks squirrel it away, and it never gets to the people. So I don't know what the answer is, but how many times do you keep throwing good money after bad in Haiti? And when they don't have it within them or a structure in place that even resembles a functioning government. Well, we've got to be on the ball here. I mean, I hope that they can get that straightened out and return these folks to Port-au-Prince. And then, I don't know what the long-term, that's the frustrating part. I don't know what the long-term solution is for Haiti, but we got to look out for us first. But I have a feeling the Biden administration is going to turn their head the other way, just like they did at the southern border, just like they're doing at the northern border. PJmedia.com, apparent Hezbollah member caught crossing the border. Listen to this Einstein. You ready for this one? Another criminal or terrorist who was caught crossing the border. This guy was a member of Hezbollah, the Lebanese terrorist organization that attacks Israel from the north. His name is Bassel Ibadi. Bassel Ibadi, caught near El Paso by the Border Patrol. When interrogated on what he was in the United States for, this guy said, and I quote, "I'm going to try to make a bomb," and admitted to being part of Hezbollah for 11 years. He intended to go to New York, where he apparently, as a 22-year-old, he would get 60 days in a shelter thanks to new modifications in New York's right to shelter laws. Ibadi also admitted to using a fake name at least once on his way to the border and claimed his papers were stolen in Costa Rica and that his father lived in Ecuador. If you would think Hezbollah would send a guy who would convincingly lie about his origins, so his real what this guy is really up to is hard to know. But he actually said, "I want to get into America and build a bomb." Thank you very much. Let's go straight to jail. So I don't know. Unbelievable, but the guy claims to be from Hezbollah. And then there's this story, and I think there's something at play here. A ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court means the attempt to ban an illegal immigrant from possessing firearms is unconstitutional, a judge has concluded. An illegal immigrant was wrongly banned from possessing guns according to a recent ruling. Federal law 18 U.S.C. 922 bars illegal immigrants from carrying guns or ammunition. Prosecutors charged Herberto Carbajal Flores, the illegal alien in 2020 after he was found in Chicago carrying a semi-automatic pistol, knowing that he was an alien illegally and unlawfully in the United States. Not supposed to have a gun according to the law. But U.S. District Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman rejected 2 motions to dismiss, but the third motion, based on a 2022 U.S. Supreme Court ruling, triggered a dismissal of the case on March 8th. They let him go. The non-citizen possession statute, and it's 18 U.S.C. 922, violates the Second Amendment as applied to Carbajal Flores, Judge Coleman appointed under President Barack Obama, wrote in her 8-page ruling. Thus, the court grants Carbajal Flores' motion to dismiss. Now, you know, in 2022, the Supreme Court determined that the U.S. Constitution's Second Amendment presumptively protects conduct that is covered by the amendment's plain text. And so I think what's going on here is I think it's probably not unconstitutional to say you're not a U.S. citizen, therefore you have no rights, but that apparently has fallen by the wayside. But I think what this judge is really up to is sending this previous Supreme Court ruling regarding the Second Amendment, which is a very strong statement from the Supreme Court, and trying to send it back to the Supreme Court where they're hoping it would be weakened. I think that's the purpose of all this. But one way or the other, this individual who is here illegally, violating what is 18 U.S.C. 922, had the case dismissed by a judge, citing recent Supreme Court decisions. Let's see how that one plays out. But I have a feeling some games are at play. That's what's really going on here. 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
New developments in the Israel-Hamas war, a missing man's body found in the woods, a drug bust in Tennessee, and United Airlines trying to reassure customers that their flights are safe. Those stories and more at 5 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 56 minutes here past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Coming up in the next hour, listen, Biden is angry and he's not happy with the way his campaign is going. And he's taking foreign policy, and instead of doing what's in the best interest of the of the country, he is doing what's in the best interest of his campaign. And we're going to get into that in a much deeper way. And don't you have an obligation when you're president to look out for the best interest of the country instead of what's best for your political, future? I think we can all agree that's exactly what's going on, and I'll explain why and why all eyes in this coming election need to stay on the state of Michigan, of all places. I'll explain it coming up after the news. It's 57 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Currently 43 degrees and a bit of a windier afternoon in Music City. Traffic, complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Starting in the nation's capital, the White House providing details on President Biden's call today with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Speaking to reporters at the White House, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the president once again raised concerns about plans for an Israeli military operation in Rafah, the last safe haven for more than 1 million civilians there. Karen Travers.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said President Biden pushed Prime Minister Netanyahu on whether Israel has a, quote, coherent and sustainable strategy to defeat Hamas. When asked if this phone call, the first between the two leaders in more than a month, was the come-to-Jesus conversation that President Biden was heard talking about recently in a hot mic moment, Sullivan said he wouldn't characterize it, but also didn't say no.
I will just describe what happened in the conversation as I've done here today, and I'll let you all draw your own conclusions.
And Sullivan denied reports that conversation between Biden and Netanyahu ended abruptly and tensely. Here in Tennessee, a missing man found dead. News 2 reports that the body of Dylan Peluso was found in a wooden area on North College Street yesterday. Peluso was last seen alive on Thursday, March 7th, when an incident occurred at a nearby apartment complex that prompted a disturbance call. An autopsy will be conducted, but as of now, officials don't have a concrete idea of how Peluso died. And for months, health officials have feared the return of measles across the U.S. Now the CDC has issued a national health alert because many parents haven't vaccinated their children. Andy Field has the latest from Washington.
Some parents delayed vaccinating school-aged children for measles. CDC now issuing a health alert that anyone over 6 months old without the MMR vaccine planning to travel outside the U.S. should get the vaccine before leaving, and that all children should get the shot before school. U.S. has confirmed nearly 60 measles cases in 17 states in just the last few months. That is the same number for all of last year.
Drugs in Tennessee. News 2 says that 43-year-old Larry Stepney was arrested after being found with drugs during a traffic stop. Stepney was stopped on Saturday on Grayland Drive after crossing several traffic lines. He was first taken into custody due to failing sobriety tests. During a search of the vehicle, officers found about a dozen grams of white powder, a crystal rock that weighed almost 6 grams, and over 20 grams worth of crushed pills, along with a scale. Stepney remains jailed on a $76,000 to $500 bond. In one major airline trying to reassure customers with safety concerns, Brian Clark.
United Airlines is pointing to recent maintenance and training measures to show it's improving flight safety. In a letter sent to customers this morning, CEO Scott Kirby writes United is reviewing recent high-profile incidents, including the discovery of a missing external panel when a flight from San Francisco landed in Medford, Oregon. Kirby told customers the company will learn more from these incidents and continue to put safety first.
And Kirby told customers the company made recent changes to emphasize that flight safety, writing everyone on our teams working together to keep you safe on your trip. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let's get you home. Let's get you safely, get you there safely, and then let's give you some information while you're in transit, as they say. We want to give you information while you're in transit, so that you arrive home. You will say, "Man, that was time well spent in that car." If I could just ease your pain a little bit, it makes my day. Well, at least I had Wilson to listen to. Well, anyway, I hope so. We're going to talk now about the United States relationship with Israel, which at the moment is not good. The President of the United States had what he called a come to Jesus meeting or phone call with Benjamin Netanyahu today. And this is all about whether or not Israel has, wants to go into Rafah to complete the work that needs to be done to disassemble Hamas. I just can't believe that we in this country have the temerity to suggest to the country of Israel that, you need to pull back a little bit here. I mean, after what happened, they didn't start this, but they dang well have every right to finish it, in my estimation. And, look, I support Israel, as most Americans do. I mean, the numbers suggest that the vast majority of Americans support Israel in all this and do not support Hamas. But then why is the president trying to get Netanyahu to pull back? Why is he pushing for peace talks, when I think Israel has every right in the world to defend itself and to make sure that Hamas is completely dismantled and disassembled? I don't know why. But so he had a big phone call with Netanyahu today. Israel's expected military invasion of Rafah in southern Gaza was the focus of President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's call on Monday, their first in more than a month, with the White House saying Biden has deep concerns that Israel will not do enough to prevent civilian casualties as it goes after Hamas fighters in the city. In the latest development in a standoff between Biden and Netanyahu that has gone on for weeks, with the U.S. demanding a satisfactory plan from Israel, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said Netanyahu, at Biden's request, would be sending a delegation to Washington to try to work out what he called an alternative approach. Sullivan had some of the administration's strongest words yet for how Israel has conducted itself in Gaza and how the U.S. would view an invasion of Rafah, where over 1 million displaced Palestinians are sheltering. So there you go. I mean, they're doing everything they can to get Israel to pull back. Now, why? Why are they doing this? Is it because that's a foreign policy that's in the best interest of this nation? No. It has nothing to do with our foreign policy and what's the right stand to take. It has everything to do with the looming presidential elections and the state of Michigan. More on that in a moment. So Biden's been out there saying, hold on a minute, BB, we need you to back off, BB. And he's, says, well, I guess he's trying to, at least ameliorate the concerns of the president somewhat by sending a delegation to have conversations, but I don't think he needs to back down. And when Biden, then enlists Chuck Schumer to go out there and say things like, it's time for a new election and Bibi needs to go.
A new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel. People on all sides of this war are turning away from a two-state solution, including Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. I believe in his heart he has his highest priority is the security of Israel. However, I also believe Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way.
Well, and when President Biden was asked about the comments by Schumer, he said, good speech. He supports it. In fact, I have a feeling Schumer would not have done that if not on the behest of the Biden administration. He wanted some voice from Congress, the president did, to back him up. Bibi Netanyahu, by the way, pretty much told Chuck Schumer over the weekend to mind his own business.
I think Schumer's statements are wholly inappropriate. I think we're not a banana republic. The people of Israel will choose when they'll have elections, who they elect, and it's not something that will be foisted upon us. That, it's wrong to try to replace the elected leaders of a sister democracy and a staunch American ally at any time, but especially during the time of war. Just imagine that after 9/11, and when you're in the midst of fighting Al-Qaeda and winning, people will say, oh, well, the right thing, some Israeli would say, oh, the right thing to do is now to have new elections in America or have President Bush resign. It's inappropriate, shouldn't have been said. It's wrong. As far as my considerations, they're not for my personal survival. They are for the survival of the Jewish state, and that requires pursuing the war. It's something that my government enjoys the support of the overwhelming majority of Israelis. And let me tell you something, not only the majority of Israelis, but the majority of the American people. 82% support Israel consistently over the 5 months of the war against Hamas and not Hamas. So, I don't know why Senator Schumer made those statements. I think the only thing that we should be focused on is changing the regime in Gaza, bringing down the terrorist regime of Hamas and not the duly elected government of Israel. Mm-hmm. That's the right policy.
I think he's right. I mean, and I think he's right when he says 82% of Americans support Israel in this matter. So why then is the Biden administration, trying to, get Israel to back off after what happened on October 7th? And I'll tell you, it all comes down not to what's good foreign policy, but what is politically expedient for this particular president. And to understand that in a greater way, you have to look directly at what's going on in Michigan. Now, in the upcoming election, President Biden is way behind in the battleground states, but there is no way that he can get to 270, I think, without going through Michigan. And right now, he's behind in Michigan. Let me just run through the most recent polls from RealClearPolitics.com. They keep up with this kind of thing. In Michigan right now, a Quinnipiac poll, I can never say it, Quinnipiac poll, has Trump leading by 3. Bloomberg, Trump leading by 3. Hill, Trump leading by 2. Epic, Trump leading by 4. Fox, Trump leading by 2. Detroit News, this is an unbelievable poll, Trump leads by 8. But if you average all of that together, Trump leads by 3.5. Listen, this is a state that Biden won in 2020. And he's behind right now. And why? Because there are 310,000 people who are Arab Americans or Muslims. It's the largest single gathering of Arab Americans anywhere in the country. 310,000 of them live in Dearborn. That's about 3.1% of the entire Michigan population, and they are furious with the Biden administration, and they want him to back off, and they want the United States policy to be backing off of Hamas and getting Israel to back down. That's what they want. And so that's what Biden is giving them. Is it the right policy? I would argue it's not the right policy. But that's the policy they're pursuing because it's politically expedient for Biden to follow this policy. Now, there's 2 problems for Democrats right now as they look at this coming election, this looming election. And one of them is that young people, for one reason or another, I mean, it's true, 82% of Americans support Israel in this matter. But for some reason, young people, and I don't know how this happened, they are very much more oriented towards supporting Hamas, a terrorist organization, than they are supporting Israel. I don't understand it, but that somehow this happened. And it became, for young people who are largely young voting age people tend to vote Democrat. That's not completely true, but I mean, it is largely true. So they got a problem there. And then they got these 310,000 Arab Americans who during the Democrat primary in Michigan voted uncommitted in huge numbers to try to send a message to Biden that, we're not with you on this. So they're trying to figure out, they're trying to, walk a tightrope. And I don't know how you do this if you're Joe Biden. I don't know. There's no way to win, really. If you support Israel, you lose those 310 people that you can't get. You can't become president without those 310,000 people voting for you. And so, I don't know how you do that because most Americans support Israel, but, do you care more about that or about the 310,000 people who are going to just, not vote for you? No, you care about Michigan. This is all about presidential politics. It's all about getting those people turned around because Joe Biden knows, and he's correct, that he cannot win the presidency again without going through Michigan, and Michigan's not looking so good for him right now. And the main thing that the people in Michigan, those Arab voters, are concerned about in Michigan is Joe Biden and his policy. They think he's been too positive toward Israel. So, that's what's driving this whole thing. As I look at, I've been playing around with the Electoral College map, and I've been assigning, where I think like Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina are all states that I think are going to fall in direction of Trump. There are 3 states that I think may fall, could go either way. Really, I think it comes down to 3: Wisconsin and Michigan, and I'm trying to remember the third one. But there are 3. And there's no way that that Biden can win if he doesn't win Michigan. So they're going to do whatever it takes, whether it's good foreign policy or bad foreign policy. They are going to be trying to support Hamas any way they can, and they're trying to get Israel to back off. Not because it's good policy, but because it's politically expedient for one Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. That's what it's all about. So remember, as we talked in years past about all eyes on Florida, or all eyes on this state, or all eyes on that state. This time around, the way it's shaping up, all eyes are going to be on Michigan. As Michigan goes, so goes the election, I believe, the way it looks today. Now, that may change, but that's the way it feels right now. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. King and Associates Insurance in Brentwood has been there for 25 years as an independent agency, and that's great because they can weed out all the non-competitive companies. When you call them and say, hey, I need some insurance, they're going to get you a really good offer because they can shop around. They can look at all kinds of different companies. They don't just offer one product. They can go around and find one that really works, and they can eliminate those that do not work. And what's the end result? Better price. Probably in most cases, and you're going to get better insurance that really meets your specific needs. That's right. And then here's the other thing I want to tell you about an independent agency. It's not like dealing with the internet companies where you call and you get on a phone tree and you're going to lose hours of your time. It's a time suck like you cannot believe. But if you call this number, 615-329-8121, the folks at King & Associates will answer the call. A real human being will actually answer the phone and shock, stun, and amaze. They're going to help you. That's what they're there for. They're going to help you, not aggravate you. A multi-policy discount, they're the kings of that. 20, 25, 30, 35% savings are possible. So get your royal review with King & Associates Insurance. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance and Associates, royal treatment and great rates.
Updates in the Israel-Hamas war. Car burglars who shot and killed a security guard still on the loose, and a body found in the Cumberland River. Those stories 30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock right here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport. The thrill of victory. And the agony of defeat.
It's time for Mac Maury's wild world of sports. And now, here without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend. You love him, you can't live without him. The one, the only, the incomparable Mac Maury.
Yes, sir. I'll tell you, if you can't live without me, you've got some issues that you may need to attend to. That's rough stuff.
Well,
but I appreciate it.
I look forward to this segment every day because, I feel like I've got a pretty good beat on politics, but sports, I don't have enough room for politics and sports in my brain.
It's a lot to fit in there.
I count on you to be my sports brain. All right, so what are we talking about today?
We are going to do some early March Madness stuff. Yesterday was, thank you, Weber. Woo! It's time, baby. We're here, bracketology, where everyone knows the same amount. I mean, you see these experts spend these months, the whole season, analyzing everything, and then your grandma who hasn't watched basketball in 7 years ends up winning your bracket. And you're like,
exactly.
Okay, this is ridiculous. But that's what makes it fun too, right? Everyone can get involved. Family brackets. My family has done one since I can remember. We set it up every year as long as I've been alive. We just get together, and again, lots of my family doesn't even watch basketball. A lot of us do.
Oh, I like those colors. I'm gonna pick them.
That's exactly right. Or a mascot on mascot. You know. I remember one year my sister-in-law chose the Duke Blue Devils to win the championship because she was doing mascot battles, and it's hard to defeat a one-on-one matchup with the Blue Devil.
You can't beat a blue Satan.
No, exactly. Yeah. And Duke won that year, and that's the year she had that. So you just never know. It's fun stuff. But we kind of assumed Tennessee wasn't going to get that 1 seed after just was a debacle of a showing in the SEC tournament, losing to Mississippi State in the first game. So I think Tennessee...
Where did they fall?
2 seed. They ended up as a 2 seed. They're going to be in the Midwest region, and that is in the same region as the number 1 Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue has what will most likely be the Naismith Player of the Year this year, 7'4", Zach Edey. Edey's been there for a few years, and he's 300 pounds. It's not like some little beanpole of a 7'4". This guy moves people.
He's a big man.
He's huge. As far as his NBA aspirations, I don't think he'll do well in the professionals. So he should really reminisce and take this in, being a big guy that other people can't stop. So I think that is going to be a tough matchup if Tennessee can get there. But Tennessee's got to get there first. They're going to have to win 3 games to even have a chance to face Purdue, or it could be Kansas. It could be Gonzaga up there on the top of the Midwest region. It would be the second time ever that the Vols were able to make an Elite Eight. And I told you all last week, that's going to be...
Really?
I know, only 2 times. Only 4 times ever they've made the Sweet 16.
Wow.
And 2 of those times have been with Rick Barnes. So I'll give him credit there last time, and then I believe it was in 2019 or 2020. And this is a big time for Tennessee basketball, and for especially Rick Barnes.
Kind of a make it or break it sort of scenario.
It is. He's been the bridge to bringing Tennessee up as like a real, almost a blue blood program in basketball. I mean, every year for the past 5 or 6 years, they've been a top 10, top 15 sort of program. They make the tournament every year. They have a chance at winning the SEC. But can you get it done in March? Can you get past the Sweet 16? Just an Elite 8 berth. I know I say just. That's a lot. There's only 8 teams who make it. Elite 8. So we'll see if Tennessee can get there. They're going to face, though, on Thursday night, the 15 seed St. Peter's. So St. Peter's 2 years ago made a run at the Elite Eight. This is a team that no one knew St. Peter's over there in Jersey.
That's what's great about March Madness. You can never predict how it's going to work out.
So much fun. So St. Peter's is coming in as a known commodity. They won their conference this year. They were pretty not great last season, but that was the season right after them making that Elite Eight. So they kind of had a sandwich year of nothing. And here they are again, a whole new team, same coach. And they're coming with kind of some attitude. I mean, I'm reading some of these articles about St. Peter's, and they're really excited that everyone's kind of forgotten about them again. They're like, it was only 2 years ago. We were, maybe it wasn't us, but this program, this coach, we've been here. We can do this.
Yeah. And like that old saying, underestimate me. It'll be fun.
It'll be exactly. So Tennessee kind of came in lackadaisical SEC tournament. Okay, we're gonna win this. We already won the conference, whatever. And they lose and they won. They cannot go in with that attitude. St. Peter's, they're gonna come in undersized. They're gonna play only 6 or 7 guys the whole time. They're gonna get tired at the end of the game. But Tennessee has to come out on tip-off knowing that this is March Madness intensity. Everyone is playing for not only maybe the last time they'll ever play basketball, but maybe playing for a chance to go overseas, to go to the NBA. I mean, these are guys who want to make a living, even guys at St. Peter's. So they've got a sophomore that I think could do some real damage. Corey Washington, 16.5 points per game. He scored 25 points in their conference championship game. He's going to be scoring and got a good jump shot. We'll see what happens Thursday night. Go Vols.
All right. And now it's time to take that bright orange cap that he has on and put on his news hat because it's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.5:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 43 degrees and got some wind on Music Row. Traffic report, weather forecast in 5 minutes. The U.S. at odds with Israel over the nation's plan to invade a major Gaza population center. Here's Andy Field.
The president spoke with Israel's prime minister for the first time in more than a month and urged him not to invade Gaza's southern city of Rafah.
But a major ground operation there would be a mistake. It would lead to more innocent civilian deaths.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan saying the U.S. supports Israel's goal of eliminating Hamas, but not by sacrificing more civilian Palestinians that the terror organization is using as human shields.
Crime in Tennessee. Metro Police trying to find the car burglars who shot and killed an armed security guard. Happened outside of the Illusion Bar and Lounge in South Nashville yesterday morning. This is not the first time there have been shots fired in that parking lot. Channel 4's Dryden Quigley fills us in.
Police say around 2 on Sunday morning, Maurice Thomas Jr. was doing his job as a security guard, patrolling the parking lot. That's when he came across people breaking into cars. They started firing and shot Thomas. He was rushed to the hospital where he died. Thomas was armed, but it's unclear if he fired any bullets. They're hoping the construction of the new Southeast Police Precinct just a block away will put an end to the shootings.
And Metro Police still looking for the car burglars. If you have any information, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers. Right now, here staying in the volunteer state, a body was found yesterday floating in the Cumberland River. The body did not fit the description of Riley Strain, who's the missing University of Missouri student, or Sebastian Rogers, the missing autistic 15-year-old out of Sumner County. The TWRA reported the body floating before the Martin Luther King Bridge. Officials say there are no signs of foul play trauma on the body. That is the latest news. Weather, traffic, next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Grace Point Healthcare is the standard for affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine. How does that work? Well, as a direct pay provider, your healthcare is delivered without the red tape of an insurer's guidelines. Don't they make you mad sometimes? Smart Care plans make it even more affordable. That start at $69 a month, and for that, you get a lot. You get free office visits for a year and basic labs for a year. Grace Point identifies and treats the root causes of conditions and not just the condition, but the symptoms. Not just the symptoms, but they actually get to the root of it all. And by usually seeing you the same or next day, you're treated at your convenience. Grace Point Healthcare is affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. Listen, they're good folks over there, Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to make an appointment. It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. If you're listening on Super Talk TV or on the stream, you're not going to hear a lot of this stuff. I mean, I don't know if you've figured it out by now, but we have a license that allows us to play music on the radio, but we cannot play it on the stream. So what we have to do is we strip out music. So if you're listening on one of the streaming services, you might want to just try good old terrestrial radio for the next few minutes, because this is all about music.
It's going to be real awkward, I think.
It's going to hear a lot of silence, and I apologize for that, but that's just the way it is. I can't do anything about it. That's the way it is in a lot of places. So we don't want to get in trouble, and we want to do right by the artist. And since we don't have that license, we can only do this on the radio. So here we go, all you radio listeners. The Country Music Hall of Fame has announced its 2024 inductees, and we'll start with the first one. He recently passed away, and normally that would prevent you from being nominated to be into the Country Music Hall of Fame for a year. But because the decision had been made before his death, they felt like it would be okay. We're talking, of course, about the one, the only Toby Keith, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I'm telling you, what a life that guy had prior to his demise recently. Semi-professional football player, worked on an oil rig out in Oklahoma, and then made his turn into country music. And I mean, you know, some of my favorite Toby. There's a song he does called "Best Boots on the Boulevard," and you know, and all that kind of "Beer for My Horses." That's with Willie Nelson. I mean, great stuff. He did not really get this. He did not know this when he was alive, apparently, but he died, as you know, of stomach cancer on February 5th, 2024. However, they had already made the decision. They hadn't announced it, but they'd made it, so he gets to be in this year rather than have to wait out a year. Next, I once heard I heard this guy's voice described as having sort of like a vocal wah-wah pedal. And I'm talking, of course, about the one, the only John Anderson. Swinging. He came from Apopka, Florida, cut his teeth playing rock and roll before migrating to Nashville in 1971, according to the Tennessean. And while he has raised the roof of the Grand Ole Opry House 20-some times, he also helped build that very same roof, all the while telling his fellow roofers that one day he would play that stage. He actually helped put the roof on the Grand Ole Opry House. And looked down and said, boys, I'm going to be on that stage. And said, right, John.
Yeah,
right.
Okay, buddy.
Yeah, well, he showed them wrong. He had, while playing the Opry, having 5 #1 singles, releasing more than 20 albums, a member of the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, and he's toured the world. He is now a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame. Will be inducted later this year, and it's official. His name is in there, and he's still alive, still kicking. And he said, I'm very honored and extremely proud. I'm really just trying to get a grip on it all. The Hall of Fame and the great people that are in it, many of them were near and dear friends and heroes of mine. It's certainly a statement of one's career. To be honest, I'm just trying to get a grip on the reality of it actually happening. He cut his teeth in the early life of music of Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones. But it was the country music of the Delmore Brothers, Hank Williams Sr., Doc Watson, and Jimmy Rogers that would usher him more toward Nashville. There you go. And then the next guy is a recording legend. If you know anything about country music in this town, you have at some time heard the name James Burton. Now, I mean, just before we play one of the songs I know you know that he played on, I went through his discography, which started back in 1959. And I'm telling you, you would not believe the number of people he has played with. Bobby V, the Everly Brothers, Ricky Nelson, Jan and Dean, the Monkees, Roger Williams, the Everly Brothers again. Let's see. I want to get some Michael Nesmith, Pat Boone, Randy Newman, Lee Hazelwood, Johnny Rivers, Ricky Nelson, Buck Owens, Mama Cass Elliott, Steve Young, Merle. Well, let's why don't we just go ahead and say it? He did a lot of work with Merle Haggard, including the guitar work on this one. Listen to this. Woo! I mean, that's good stuff right there. That's classic James Burton stuff. I mean, you know, when you start talking about some of the great chicken pickers, you know, some names come to mind. Albert Lee, Brent Mason, who I've had the pleasure of seeing in person. He actually, one of the greatest days of my life was when Brent Mason played on a song that I wrote and just nailed it to the wall. It was so good. That's that Catfish song that we play now and then when the Predators are winning. And then my friend Johnny Highland, but I mean, James Burton is right up there with some of the great chicken pickers of all time. I'm going on and here, Elvis Presley, Tina Turner, Hoyt Axton, Graham Parsons, Mac Davis, Emmylou Harris a lot, Jonathan Edwards, Roger Miller, my goodness, that was way back in 77. I haven't even gotten halfway through. John Denver, quite a bit. So, I mean, he was recognized by all of these great artists as being so good in the studio. Jerry Lee Lewis, J.J. Cale. How about Neil Young? Jimmy Dale Gilmore, George Jones, Elvis Costello. I mean, this list just goes on and on and on. The last recording, one of the last one was with Emmylou Harris and Rodney Crowell. So, I mean, he has played with everybody, and everybody who ever played with him had nothing but respect for James Burton's playing. Now, so we have Toby Keith from the modern era. They have James Burton is the recording and touring, and they do this where they do songwriters one year and recording and touring musicians the other year. So this is the year for that. And then John Anderson is from the classic era. They go back and they pick somebody new. They pick somebody that is, has been there for a long time, deserves recognition. And then they go either with a songwriter one year or a touring musician or a recording studio musician the next year. This is year for the Burton. So that's a great honor. I noticed, I know my friend Ricky Skaggs, one of the greatest honors that you can have in country music is to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. I mean, this is big stuff. This is what it's all about. If you've worked in country music and you make your way to the Country Music Hall of Fame, then that is about the ultimate recognition one can have for a career in country music.
By the way, I just learned this while I was looking up Mr. Burton. He's already a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah. It has been since 2001.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, man, the guy is seriously good. Oh, there's the great story. They had a great story about how he got notified. Let me see if I can. Keith Urban called him. Hang on, I got it right here. I got to read this to you because it's just so good. Okay. He got the call that he was going to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. He thought it was a joke. His friend Keith Urban called him before handing the phone over to the Country Music Association CEO, Sarah Traherne, to share the big news with Burton. Burton was speechless. He hung up and redialed the number and said to Traherne, "Is this a prank call?" It was not, in fact, a prank call. And now Burton, the teen who invented American guitar, will stand proudly before his idols, Chet Atkins and Merle Travis, in the Country Music Hall of Fame. He can still hardly believe it. It's truly an honor. He's 84 years old, lives in Nashville, grew up in Shreveport, started his career playing on the Louisiana Hayride. You talk about the early roots of country music. That's it. He was well known for playing a Fender Tele, a white 1953 Fender Telecaster that he bought at J&S Music Store. It been on the guitar on the market in 51, only 2 years. So he bought this like the third year that the Tele was even developed. He said, "I knew I was going to make a career out of playing that guitar quickly as soon as I hit my first G chord," which if you ever play guitar, you can sort of get by playing a G with one finger. And again, he uses a flat pick between his thumb and index finger and a finger pick on his middle finger. The result can cause high notes to pop in a lively burst that he called chicken pickin'. So I guess he was like maybe the father of chicken pickin', which is my favorite kind of country guitar. So congratulations to the late Toby Keith, to John Anderson, and James Burton as the 2024 inductees to the Country Music Hall of Fame. They'll do the official ceremony later this year, but what a great day it is for those guys, and congratulations. 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. How are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any of the mid-course corrections that might be needed. And maybe, you just wonder, I sort of like a quick sense of where I'm at. Well, discover your retirement savings potential in less than 30 seconds with Beacon Capital Management's free retirement savings calculator. Simple step-by-step calculator, easy to use. You'll get your results right away. Take the next step in your financial planning journey and see how much you could have saved for retirement by now. And get on it, folks. Retirement is not that far away. If you need a deep dive, give them a call, 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
More deaths in that war between Israel and Hamas. An update on the former Trump advisor Peter Navarro and his appeal to stay out of prison. A fire here in Tennessee, and the Department of Homeland Security trying to crack down on fentanyl networks. It's all coming up 6 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, coming up here in the next hour, I'm going to be talking about how Joe Biden is said to be really angry and frustrated because, well, he's losing, and he doesn't like hearing about it. It's like he's putting his fingers here going, la, 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 I don't want to hear it. And he's wearing funny shoes. We'll talk about all of that coming up in the next hour right here on Super Talk 99.7. 57 minutes past the hour now.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories in the last day of winter upon us. It's saying goodbye with some chilly weather, currently 42 degrees. Spring will say hello with the same kind of briskness, some windiness. Again, 42 degrees right now on Music Road. Traffic and a weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. In Gaza, the Israeli Defense Forces still operating in Al-Shifa Hospital. An Israeli political source with knowledge of the operation says at least 20 people have been killed. Here's Tom Sufi-Burridge.
According to White House Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, he was actually saying that he's confident that Hamas operatives were firing back from the hospital. And what Jake Sullivan from the White House also reiterated about this is that it was previously raided by the IDF. The IDF took control of that site back in November. They took journalists from ABC News inside the hospital, and now it seems that Hamas has been able to infiltrate that area again.
And the IDF say that they seized weaponry and money being used by Hamas. They also say that they killed multiple terrorists in that area. But remember, there are not only patients in the hospital, there are also civilians sheltering there. Billionaire Donald Trump is having trouble coming up with the cash for the $464 million bond he has to post in 1 week from today if he wants to appeal the civil fraud judgment against him. He's asking the courts for a discount. Here's Aaron Katursky.
There's the possibility that Trump could put his buildings up for sale now to raise quick cash, but his lawyers say that kind of fire sale would result in irrecoverable losses if his appeal succeeds. So bottom line, Trump wants the court to let him post a smaller bond. His lawyers say securing anything close to $464 million is a practical impossibility.
And they've approached more than 30 insurance companies for help and were rejected by each one. And the main reason, Trump doesn't have enough cash. The insurance companies were unwilling to accept his real estate assets as collateral. A fire in Tennessee, a condo in the Reed Hill Commons complex in Franklin, caught fire last night, left $10,000 worth in damages behind. Only one woman lived in that condo, was able to make it out safely with her cat. Officials say that the woman accidentally hit a knob on an appliance in the garage and a plastic tote on top, causing the flames to start. The woman and her pet cat have both been displaced from the home. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 6 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. On this, the last full day of winter, we're going to celebrate spring tomorrow. Well, I mean, the temperatures won't really be spring-like tomorrow, but at least it'll be the first partial day of spring tomorrow. By the time we get to 3 o'clock, I think we'll have spring.
Close enough, anyway.
We need to check. I'm not sure exactly what. There are always sticklers.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Brian, it doesn't actually start till, let's find. Can you look that up real quick?
I looked this up earlier, and it was just so bizarre because, let me pull it up. Spring. Because it said, well, now it doesn't show the same thing, but it gave a range. It said Tuesday through Thursday.
Well, really? I don't know. What time for us is the question. It's in Universal Time.
Oh, let's see, 10:06 p.m. So spring won't officially start until 10 o'clock tomorrow night.
Well, hold on a minute.
Yeah, for us here.
Then we won't have it before when we come on tomorrow.
That's right. So it'll still be winter all through tomorrow's episode of The Drive. Sorry.
Now I'm really upset.
You gotta wait till Wednesday.
I had a real taste in my mouth for the first day of spring, and now it won't. It'll be 10 o'clock at night before it turns officially spring.
Yeah.
All right. That's all right. I'm still getting excited though about the big big event that's happening on April 8th.
Oh, the eclipse.
The eclipse. Yeah. I have done my research, and I'll be off that day. I'm going to the total eclipse.
You got your spot picked out already?
My target is Henderson, Kentucky.
Okay.
Because that is if you go to Henderson, Kentucky, now you can go to Paducah and you get some totality. But if you go to Henderson, you get 2 minutes and 31 seconds of totality.
Wow.
That's apparently
pretty
right.
Good.
Yeah, right in the middle of the totality target. And it will be a complete total eclipse of the sun, and that's only I think it's a little 3 hours and change from here.
Yeah, not too bad.
So Cabana wife and I are going. We may even throw Grogu in the truck with us and go.
What time is the eclipse supposed to happen? I don't even know.
As I recall, it's about 2:30 our time.
Yeah,
and we get some dimming of the sun here in Nashville, but totality is what it's all about with an eclipse.
If you're gonna do it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, and by the way, I don't think there's another total eclipse of the sun on this continent for I forget how many years, but it's a long time. It's like 30 years, something like that. So, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be very cool.
Let's see.
Total.
It will be the last total solar eclipse visible from the contiguous United States until 2044. So 20 years. You'll have to
20
wait.
years. Okay. Well, I was a little over us. I got a little carried away. But okay, yeah. And I'll be in flip-flops that day. Unlike our president, who has apparently got the ugliest shoes known to mankind. Absolutely. Have you seen his new shoes? They look like corrective orthopedic shoes. Now, they're tennis shoes, and, it is sort of the style now. When I was in Washington, I would have never gotten away with it. When I wore suits every day to work, I had to wear dress shoes, or many times I wore boots. But what I really wanted to be wearing, because I was on my feet all day long, walking on marble, standing on marble, and boy, did it take its toll over time. But I wasn't allowed to wear tennis shoes because we had a dress code. Now I look at those guys on Fox News; they're all wearing tennis shoes with their suits. Well, so is Joe Biden, and apparently these corrective shoes that he's wearing are called Hokas.
Yes, I'm familiar with that brand.
Do you know about Hokas?
My wife has a pair of those.
And how does she feel about them?
She loves them. She says they're extremely comfortable.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at their website now, and the great thing about Hokas is they sell them in up to size 16.
Ooh, that's a big foot.
For me, I need a 14, and so I need a 14, and I'm looking, and I can order just about anything if I want. But the ones I would be choosing are way better looking than the ones he's wearing.
Yeah, he's got the all blacks. I guess he's trying to hide them, to disguise them. And they get the big, thick sole. That's the big identifier with those type shoes. They're real fat-looking bottoms.
President Biden's mysterious new shoes provide maximum stability. FoxNews.com. His newest shoes have opened up renewed debate about his health and physical condition, with some speculating they were designed to prevent him from falling. Biden handlers are forcing him to wear a new pair of lifestyle sneakers because he trips so much. Reads a tweet from the RNC people. Those meanies at RNC, what are they doing? They're picking on the president. Well, that's good. Observers have likened the shoes to boat anchors and piers, but apparently they are lifestyle sneakers made by the shoe brand Hoka. The Inside Edition reports the shoes were designed for maximum comfort and support while walking or hiking. It's got a wide sole for greater stability. I noticed that the toes are sort of curled up in the very top. They're sort of curled, because
they are a little bit.
He stumbles on stuff, and so maybe that's designed to keep him from catching the toe of his shoe on something. But yeah, that's where we are. Apparently, the president, we are told, suffers from peripheral neuropathy, which is damaged nerves in your lower limbs. Whether it's from trauma or disease, it's some kind of damage to the nerves. He's had, as you know, many public stumbles. He has fallen up the stairs on Air Force One. That's why he takes the short stairs now. I mean, the last time I saw him in I guess he was in Michigan, and it was raining, and some guy was helping him with an umbrella, and he looked like he was being carried, shown around and sort of, guided like he's in a nursing home. It's the most bizarre thing. The man looks like he is like he is in another world. And this guy takes him by the shoulder and turns him gently around and takes him up the walkway. It's embarrassing to look at this guy. But now, apparently, the new answer is shoes, and apparently some people have told him, quit walking so slowly, Joe, you look like an old man. Well, he is an old man. He's older than dirt, man, I'm telling you. So anyway, the new shoes. It's all going to be better with the new shoes. They live in mortal fear. If he does another face plant, if he has too many of these senior moments, it's already killing him in the polls. People are worried about him, and when they worry about him, they also worry about Kamala being there to replace him. I mean, that's not much better. That's actually a lot worse. And then there's this. You know how angry he was at the State of the Union address, shouting and boy, talk about comparisons. Take a look at him at the State of the Union address, and then compare and contrast that to the other appearances he makes that day where he's talking like this. And, well, never mind. Well, anyway, that's the big line. Well, anyway, when he gets stuck, he just goes, well, anyway, and goes on to something else. It's remarkable. It can't be the same guy. He must have been, I don't know what he was jacked up on. I don't know what they gave him, what kind of pep pill they gave him. The general consensus is maybe Adderall, but they don't want to give it to him every day. So they just save it for special occasions, right? If there's going to be a debate, which there won't be a debate, but they'll jack him up with a bunch of Adderall and a 5-hour energy drink and some, a B12 shot and an extra dose of Prevagen, and then they'll give him a nap.
And then promise him an ice cream cone if he does a good job.
If you do a good job, Mr. President, we'll get you some ice cream. He is angry. He's an angry man, he is. And according to this story from redstate.com, Joe Biden is losing it over his re-election chances against Trump, seething behind the scenes. This initially came from NBC News, and everybody have picked up on it. Biden is angry and anxious about his re-election effort. Nearly 20 lawmakers, present and past administration officials, and Biden allies dished on his anger about Trump leading him in the polls. When he found out his numbers were dropping, he was seething. In a private meeting at the White House in January, allies of the president had just told him that poll numbers in Michigan and Georgia had dropped over his handling of the war between Israel and Hamas. Both are battleground states he narrowly won 4 years ago, and he can't afford any backsliding if he's to once again defeat Donald Trump. He began to shout and swear, a lawmaker familiar with the meeting said. That's why he's now throwing Israel and Netanyahu under the bus and doing all he can to try to appeal to the left and get them back in the fold. Well, I think that's right. I think that's exactly right. Today, that nice Peter Doocy asked Jake Sullivan about that. Said, well, was it Israel that got him mad and seething, and swearing and cursing and angry?
A report that when President Biden was told his handling of the war between Israel and Hamas was starting to affect his poll numbers, the quote is, he began to shout and swear. So when he does that, is he shouting and swearing about Netanyahu or about Hamas or about his poll numbers?
This is the when did you stop beating your spouse question, because I don't think he ever did that. And so, well, you use that as the premise of your question, which is when he does that. I've never seen him do that, shout or swear in response to that. So from my perspective, that particular report is not correct.
Well, I mean, but, I actually may not have been asked of the right person. But Kareen's not going to give you a straight answer because, Jake Sullivan, while he's the national security advisor, probably would not be involved in the conversations about how his campaign is going. I'm just guessing. So, yeah, maybe he hasn't seen it, but others apparently have. The polls have left him frustrated and questioning the travel and communication strategies. The report claims he doesn't think he's getting enough credit for an economy that created 15 million new jobs. Well, that's because it didn't create 15 million new jobs. There are some new jobs out there, a few. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But the vast majority of the jobs were created were jobs that were lost during the pandemic. He was just returning us to where we were. The pandemic was over and people were coming back to work. That's not on him. That's not his policies. That's the end of the pandemic. According to the report, he's chafed at restraints. He wants to get out and meet people face to face. He's upset with people who are trying to protect him and keep him from messing up. Well, maybe, you should take take something away from all of that, Mr. President. Some Democrats are losing patience with him. Biden stood up in front of the whole world and said, I'm ready. I'm the guy who can take down Donald Trump, said Adam Smith, Democrat, Washington State. So he better damn well do that. I'm cleaning that up a little bit. We don't have time for him to be worried about whether or not people are saying things right or the poll numbers are where they should be. I want focused energy and not defensive anger. Meanwhile, the campaign seems to be confused as to what to do. At times, Biden gets suggestions that conflict with one another. Some advisors have told him he should walk faster out of concern that his gait, G-A-I-T, feeds impressions that he's too old. And yet the White House is sufficiently worried about him tripping that he is taken to boarding Air Force One on the short stairs through the belly of the plane, foregoing the iconic image of the president waving from the main door high above the tarmac. Privately, Biden questions whether he should trust his gut instincts over the guidance coming from an array of advisors tending to his political interest. The person added, well, you know what? Here's what I say. Honestly, you're going to really be surprised by my advice. Joe, you go with your gut, because your gut is always wrong. 1,000% of the time, if you want to know what's the right thing to do the opposite thing that Joe Biden's gut tells him to do. I promise you, you'll come out better, so much better, just doing the opposite. Or, Mr. President, just do the opposite of what your gut tells you to do and you'll be fine. Although, he's not going to do that. This is what happens when you get a president who's losing it. Everybody wants to rush in and give him a bunch of stuff. And you got people in your ear left and right. I bet he is hacked off about people treating him like he's some kind of, but he is. He can barely function as a human being, and yet he's the leader of the free world. All right, well, enough of that. It's 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. How would you feel if you or your loved ones had no pain? Well, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley can help you find that pain-free life. over at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Because getting better and feeling healthy is important to Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley. They're freezing costs at 2023 levels. You heard that right. Half off spinal decompression treatment, half off the KT machine, and new patients can get a full consultation for just $23. Holding the 2023 prices for just $23 for new patients, you'll get this: an exam, consultation, x-rays included. If needed, if you bring in an MRI report, he'll go over it. They often find things that other people missed. Dr. Mitchell will go over your condition, put together a game plan that'll get you feeling better. So why don't you call Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley to set up your consultation today at 615-246-5009. Again, 615-246-5009. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. "25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Apparently I'm harming the ecology of Tennessee. And I don't mean to. I mean, I didn't mean to. I didn't personally make the decisions that led to this, but I am the owner of property that has a great number of Bradford pear trees. I counted them up. I think it's 8. On 2 acres, I have 8 of them. And apparently, as we told you last week, this story was from WATE. They're talking about how they are really a scourge upon the ecology of Middle Tennessee. The tree is native to Asian countries. It's an invasive species. They choke out the landscape. They choke out other species in the landscape. And it's not much better than kudzu.
I was going to say that. It reminds me of kudzu. I mean, obviously it's not a vine, it's a tree, but it's similar. The way it just kind of takes over.
I think what happened was a few years back, they came into favor because somebody said, hey, plant this tree. It'll grow quickly and you'll have a big old tree in your yard.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a very good tree. They're subject to, the limbs shear off. But they apparently are really bad. Now comes this story. Some states are banning the foul-smelling Bradford pear tree. And the question in the Tennessean is, should Tennessee do the same? South Carolina is set to ban the purchase and selling of the trees. According to Nashville Tree Conservation Corps, which works to protect and preserve the tree canopy in Davidson County, Bradford pear trees are appearing more frequently through Middle Tennessee, which begs the question, should Tennessee be the next state to outlaw the Bradford pear? Which state has banned the Bradford pear? Quite a few. South Carolina banned the tree due to its status as an invasive species. Bradford pears choke out the other plants and pollinate a similar thornier version in the wild, which interrupts the feeding habit of the surrounding insects and birds. They are on the state's plant pest list. For those same reasons, it's illegal to plant, sell, or grow Bradford pear trees in Ohio. They were banned in 23 and are included in Ohio's list of invasive plants. November of 21, Pennsylvania added the Bradford pear to its noxious weed list, which it's a noxious weed, which makes it illegal to propagate or sell the tree in the state. Legislation to ban Bradford pear trees has been proposed in Missouri and Kansas. Though not banned in Missouri, the state has taken the steps to encourage removal of the tree and replace it with a native one instead for free. Now, if I got that deal,
that'd be all right. I mean, obviously,
but I have to cut down
8
8 trees, and they're big trees.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's expensive, first of all. But they'll if there was a plan, okay, if you take it down, we'll give you a tree to put in its place. That wouldn't be bad. I don't know, but they're harmful in a lot of ways, and apparently I have too many of them, and I don't know. I'm really, really struggling over what I should do about my Bradford pears.
I drove by a plot it's in Sumner County. I drive by it a lot. I never really paid attention, but it's a huge square plot of land packed with them, packed with them. I don't know who it belongs to, but anyway,
they smell bad. They smell like fish,
or something.
Yeah,
I remember the courtyard in my high school had a bunch of them, and we never knew. We didn't know what that smell was. We thought, what is that smell? This is stinking trees
coming from the stinking. They are literally stinking Bradford pear trees.
Yeah. Also known as calorie pears. Callery, calorie pear. I don't know who calls it that, but anyway.
Well, I got some thinking to do about what I'm going to do about today. I just have too many of them. I mean, I would be the most barren 2 acres of land in Wilson County if I took them all down.
Light a match.
Maybe. I don't know. We're going to work on it. We're going to be thinking about it. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Hey, listen up. Listen up. A great opportunity here, folks. You've heard me talk about my friends at Nashville Golden Coin Buyers. They're about to relocate to a new office space and are reducing inventory by offering silver coins and bars at the lowest prices ever. Maybe you've seen that gold and silver prices are soaring right now. Well, this could be your best opportunity to get on the front run of a super low premiums. They've got your generic silver rounds and bars offered as low as $150 over spot price. They are selling the top-of-the-line American Silver Eagles as low as $350 over the spot price from now until March 6th. Silver Canadian Maple Leaves as low as $2 over the spot price. They do have limited supplies at these prices, so give them a call today. They continue to stock all your gold and silver staples as well. And if you've been on the fence about putting your dollars into the real hard assets, there's never been a better time to jump in with Nashville Gold and Coin. You'll always find them on this website, NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. Set up your one-on-one appointment at NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Good evening. Brian Wilson getting you home. Hope that you're doing well and you made it home safely. No major problems. Listen, I just have to get this in before time runs away. This is just too good to pass up. The People for Ethical Treatment of Animals sent a letter to First Lady Jill Biden on Monday urging her to modernize the annual White House Easter egg roll. Now, if you don't know, every year there's two or three things that happen at the White House every year. One is that they pardon the turkey out there in the Rose Garden, and that's been going on forever. And then the other thing that they do is they do an Easter egg roll somewhere around Easter. Sometimes it's before, sometimes it's after. But I mean, I myself took my daughter to the Easter egg roll, and it was when she was just first come to America. I took her to the Easter egg roll when she was just a baby, and we had more fun there. It was a great thing. But I'm telling you, this has been going on for a long, long time. But here's what PETA is concerned about. Instead of promoting the deleterious factory farming and slaughter industries, would you please initiate the White House potato roll?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's
instead of doing the egg roll, which is it's the highlight, the big egg roll is the highlight of the whole event. They want you to do a potato roll. I like potato rolls. They make great sandwiches.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's not the kind of potato roll
now.
they're talking about. They're talking about a spud. They're talking about a potato instead of an egg.
I wonder if they want them painted first or just a
I don't know.
brown-eyed.
Do they need to be baked first? PETA President Ingrid Newkirk noting that the change would be more inclusive and welcomed by every tot who doesn't eat eggs for religious or for cultural or environmental reasons because they object the way that animals, including hens whose reproductive systems are exploited for eggs, are raised and killed these days. PETA, I think PETA should stand for people eating tasty animals. That's what I think. But no, I mean, they're not kidding. They want to replace the egg roll with a potato roll. So anyway,
if they're going to get in, stick their head into it, which it has no place, why couldn't they just suggest using fake eggs? Use plastic eggs.
Well, in fact, a lot of the eggs I think are fake eggs. I think they're wooden eggs. As I recall, they hide wooden eggs.
Well, that makes
that
sense.
They have all kinds of different colors, and they're painted, and then they're so that you can keep them and they have White House logos on them.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so I think they are wooden eggs. I don't think they're real eggs.
So what's the problem, PETA?
Yeah, I don't know. They're just being boneheads. That's what that's PETA. That's PETA for you. No, I'm pretty sure they're wooden eggs. Double check that. Are the eggs at the White House Easter egg roll wooden eggs? I think they are. My memory is they are. They say that a potato roll wouldn't exploit any sentient beings and would encourage chickens are sentient beings. What does it say?
You can actually, I don't know if these are the official ones, but you can purchase an official Easter egg set from the White House that does have the logo and Easter egg roll on it. So I would assume these are probably very similar to the ones they use.
Yeah, I think they are. As I recall, they are wooden and painted and dyed, and they have logos on them.
You can get the official 2023 set right now for only $10.99. That's last year's version, you know.
While supporting potato farmers in the U.S., potatoes are the most popular vegetable in the country and can be safely dyed, allowing for spectacular traditional activities such as rolling them, seeking them, and decorating them. You could even hold potato sack races and games of hot potato. The suggestion was met with widespread mockery, as you might imagine, on social media. The far left is beyond satire at this point, said Senator Ted Cruz. I thought this was a Babylon Bee headline when I read it. Remember when the bunny rabbit came to save President Biden because he was answering questions and talking to people?
Yes.
And the Easter bunny went over there and grabbed him and pulled him away. Now, in years past, they have had celebrities who end up portraying the Easter bunny. And sometimes they do that. I mean, I think Willard Scott used to do it. He used to be the Easter bunny and put him in a big suit, and it's a big suit for Willard Scott.
Would be a big one, yeah.
But I think now it's just some poor unlucky staffer gets, can you fit into this bunny suit? Okay, you're our Easter bunny this year. I don't know.
And they never dry clean the suit.
You know, I'm not big. I'll be honest with you. I don't have a problem with giving up eggs because I haven't eaten an egg.
That's right. Yeah, you're not an egg fan.
I bet I haven't eaten an egg in 20 years.
At least not a real egg.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's egg in stuff that I have eaten.
Well, of course, yeah.
But if you gave me a hard-boiled egg, I couldn't choke it down. You gave me a fried egg, I couldn't eat it.
I love a good fried egg.
I just can't. I hate eggs. And I understand how important they are to baking, and I'm all about that. But just to give me an egg, deviled eggs, I'm sorry, I can't get past the smell.
I'm not a fan of those either. But you wouldn't want to bite into one of the wooden ones either. I don't think they taste very good.
No, they don't. All right. Anyway, it was a great deal. So I have a picture of my daughter. They have these cutouts where there's a gigantic, like chicken, like a little Easter chick, and you could had a hole where the face was. You could put your baby's face up in it. I got that picture. One of my favorite pictures. See, that was during Clinton. So I went to the Clinton Easter egg roll. Well, anyway, and Hillary loved that every year.
That's what I was
thinking. Can you imagine Hillary? Oh yes, let's go out and play with the children and their damn eggs. I don't remember seeing her, but I did go. All right, let's talk about some more serious news. We got serious trouble. We already know that we have a problem on the southern border. People are coming right across, right? We also know that in recent months and over the last year, they've started to have trouble with people coming across the northern border. Now we have to worry not about people coming in from Mexico or Central America, but the Haitians are taking boats directly now into Florida because, well, Haiti is a hellhole. It's always been a hellhole, but it's especially a hellhole now with essentially no effective operating government. And the place is being run by gangs. So a lot of people are trying to escape, and they're getting on boats. It's 830 miles from Port-au-Prince to the tip of southern Florida, and they are loading up in boats and trying to get there, and some of them are making it. So the first line of defense is supposed to be the Coast Guard, but they don't have enough resources to intercept all these boats. And so, now Governor DeSantis is taken to sending out his fish and wildlife boats as sort of, another buffer. And if they catch them before they get to the beach, they can make an application for asylum. But if you arrest them before they get to the beach, you can hold them and send them back. And now comes word that some folks want the Navy to get involved Congressional Republicans on Monday asked President Biden to authorize the U.S. Navy to blockade the Florida coast to stop an expected mass migration of people fleeing Haiti. Led by Matt Gaetz, asking the Navy to step in. The Navy, actually, Army General Laura Richardson is head of Southern Command and told Gaetz at a congressional hearing last week she's already asked for more increased capacity to be ready because where existing resources are insufficient to address the scope and scale of the anticipated mass migration. She says they're thinking about using the facility in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, as an interdiction camp. In other words, to interdict them and send them to Guantanamo Bay. You know, honestly, the only thing they're trying to do there is a play for time so they can get them processed and into the country. That's what they want. They don't have any desire to stop it. But here again, it adds to our immigration issues for sure. House may refer the January 6th committee members for obstruction of justice, lawmaker says. You remember when the House January 6th committee really wasn't a committee of Congress. It was a committee of Democrats in Congress. They wouldn't let any Republicans on the committee. They ran their investigation. And then when it came time for them to hand things over, when Republicans took back the House, they locked up a bunch of stuff in hard drives that had very high levels of encryption on it. And I don't know that they've ever been able to figure out how to open them up, and the Democrats don't seem to be willing to help them. And now there's evidence that they tried to do away with some of the documents. Barry Loudermilk, Republican of Georgia, said in an interview last week that he may refer former members of the committee to the Department of Justice for prosecution after a report that he commissioned found that its members allegedly hid information from the public. As far as holding people accountable, yes, there should be, Mr. Loudermilk told Just the News last week after the report was released, referring to the possibility that committee members could face punishment. But I think it's going to be a little ways down the road because there is so much more information we need to get. We need to build not only this, but get the truth out to the American people, but just to see how big this case potentially is for obstructing. In other words, they only released the documents that backed up the narrative that they had about January 6th. And there was all kinds of evidence, like the interview they did with the person who was Donald Trump's driver, who said, no, the president didn't lunge at the wheel. He didn't lunge at me. That never happened. They buried that. They hid it so that information could not get out. They wanted to tell another story. He also said he believes Representative Benny Thompson, the chairman of the now disbanded January 6th Select Committee, allowed then Representative Liz Cheney to make decisions for the panel. There are still documents that we need to get a hold of. We don't have the passwords for the encrypted documents. It's amazing that, when I asked the former chairman, Benny Thompson, all I want you to do is give me the passwords. He says, I don't even know what you're talking about. Well, I think it's coming down. He probably didn't because now new information is getting that Liz Cheney ran that committee. Isn't that interesting? President Trump never grabbed the steering wheel, the Secret Service agent said, according to a transcript reviewed by the Epoch Times last week. I didn't see him lunge or try to get into the front seat at all. The testimony was given to the Democrat-dominated Select Committee, who buried it, didn't want that story getting out. He testified under oath. Oh, my goodness. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. We've had an awful lot of rain this spring, late this winter, and spring will be here tomorrow, the day after. But we've got all kinds of problems in some houses with waterproofing. If you think you've got that problem, take a look. If you have standing water in your crawl space, wet basement walls, musty odor or floor joists with wood rot, cracks in the basement floors, hardwood floors that are cupping, well, your house may be trying to tell you something. That you need to get the folks at United Structural Systems to come out and do something about that, because I'm telling you, it's a problem. This is the most important investment. And if you have water issues, you can really do long-term damage to your house if you don't address it. They'll come out, take a look at what you got, give you their best advice. They've done this for over 25,000 satisfied residential customers. And then if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you are completely satisfied. USS, they guaranteed their best serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky. Learn more online at ussTN.com or call this number, 615-488-7855. Again, 615-488-7855.